Mayor, we had a promotion ceremony today. I will be bringing those officers next council meeting to introduce them, to let you know that. We also gave out some awards, so we're moving forward. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I would like to, at this point, and it's with great pleasure, I get to introduce you to its newest member of the City Attorney staff, Joel Linares. Joel is coming to us from the city of Grantsville, where he was the city attorney for the past 6 years. Previous to that, he was also in private practice. He will continue serving to assist 2 smaller cities. I think it's a benefit to have someone whose community involvement includes contributing to those 2 towns that he will continue to represent. And I apologize for not being able to tell them what they are. Go ahead.
The smaller communities I represent are Vernon and Rush Valley. They're not in Tulare County, so shouldn't be any conflicts of interest issues that arise with West Jordan and them. So obviously, if there was, I would defer to you guys. So.
Well, welcome on board. And does he need to be sworn in? I guess not.
Thanks, Paul.
We talked about it. We're going to bring them all back and do it all at once because none of them have been.
You'll be plenty busy, Joel. Welcome on board. Thank you very much. Scott Langford.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Brian Clay.
Thanks, Mayor. Just one item. April 29th, we have scheduled for I Love West Jordan Days. We won't be conducting that program this year with Comcast Cares, as they revamp their system and go in a different way. So if you folks have projects, it's more so of a citywide cleanup. If you guys have projects in your districts that you could assist with or have ideas, let us know and we'll go from there. We'll help you guys out. So that's all. Thank you.
Thanks. Bill Piper.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Wendell Rigby.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Chief McElwee.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Wow. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. When we last met, I was able to visit with the principal of Copper Hills High School on some neighborhood parking issues that are surrounding the high school. And last week, a resident and I visited another city in a strong mayor form of government and watched some of the things that they did there. A couple ideas that I picked up from that was, from that visit, was they do an officer of the month. They also gave a quarterly statistical report on crime. And they also have a standardized template for planning, zoning, and development services that I've received a copy of. I asked for that, and they gave that to me. So I think there's some good things from that visit. And obviously talked to a lot of residents recently. So that's what I've been doing. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to the half a dozen or more people that have texted me today. I have never received so many text messages in my role as a city councilman as I have today. All weighing in on one of our public hearing items that we'll get to in a minute, and I'll bring it up at that point. But I just wanted to say thank you for those citizens who are being engaged and reaching out to let us know of your opinion. It makes it much more effective for us to be representatives of you when we know what you're thinking. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you. I apologize because one thing I was going to talk about, it totally left my mind, so when I remember later, I'll bring it up. But in the meantime, I do have something to talk about from the Conservancy District. Staff had asked about, and even the council inquired about the rate increase this year, what it would be. It's historically, the Conservancy District has increased the wholesale water rates 4% and then 5% in the alternate each year. This year it was scheduled for a 5% increase. The board has asked the Conservancy District staff to come up with ways to cut that so it's not an entire 5% wholesale increase. I would please report to you tonight that the board is moving in a direction that's probably going to land that somewhere between 3 and 4%. So that's good news for us. The staff at the Conservancy District was able to make significant cuts in their budget and some contingency planning and such. And it's not, we haven't got it to the actual dollar amount yet, but it's a good sign. for us as a city. I also wanted to provide a water report that I just received at a meeting just prior to this one, which shows the water that comes to us specifically. You know, we watch the news and they give us water reports, but they're generally statewide or just in different areas that really don't pertain to us. But this does pertain to us. Specifically, the water outlook in the Trial Lake area, which is in the Uintas, which is where you may or may not know, we get our water from Deer Creek and Jordanelle and the High Uintas. That's where we get our water. Most of it. I mean, we get some from well water and such, but the predominant portion of it comes from up there. And Trial Lake right now, as of March 1st, which is the latest statistical work that's been done, is at 178% of snowpack. So we're doing quite well, and that's even after that little warm round for a couple weeks, so we're doing quite well. Deer Creek Reservoir is almost at capacity, and that is by design. We intentionally were not taking water at this point of the year out of Deer Creek. We've been flushing it out of Jordanelle and taking it from other sources with the plan to intentionally use that later. We're being very smart with the water. Jordanelle is not at that level because they're anticipating the High Uintas to have that come out in the spring. And so that's why if you go to Deer Creek and it's full and Jordanelle's not, that's why. You can see there's actually some good water management going into that. Anyway, I wanted to provide that report to the council as we move forward through the budget season. Thank you.
Councilmember Hagan.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to shout out to our chamber president and the Chamber of Commerce, the Government Affairs, and it's come on our agenda today that there's a proposal to increase water fees again, and I appreciate you coming. Hope you can know that you can come to citizen comments here and speak on that issue. It's an important issue, and we just got a report from our representative of the Water Conservancy. You know, we're sitting good on water, and since there's a big balance in our water fund, you know, we want to really watch whether we really need an increase tonight. So I appreciate the chamber president. She's not here tonight for the email she sent us on behalf of the Government Action Committee. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. First, a little shout out to the Boy Scouts out there. Thank you for coming and joining us today. And second, I see there's a few faces I recognize. Thank you for joining us today as well. Third of all, for those who are interested, 1 week from tomorrow, I'm going to be hosting a town hall meeting here at City Hall at 6:30, and you're welcome to come and join with us. And in conjunction with what Brian was telling us about the I Love West Jordan, I do have some I Love West Jordan service opportunities scheduled for April 29th. If you go to my district website, you'll see there's a place you can sign up and come help clean up West Jordan and keep it a great place. So, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. With the construction going on 70th South, there's been a little bit of confusion. The city had reached out to residents to tell them that mail service would continue. However, there have been some interruptions. Working with Kim Wells, we were able to find what seems to be a good solution for that. Well, with both Kim Wells and David Murphy, and there should be some temporary mailboxes going in shortly. Along with that, I just want to recognize the GIS folks, because there was a request that came in from the folks that will be taking care of the mailboxes to get a map that has all the house numbers for the homes on that road. And as always, they were very, very quick to respond. So just wanted to thank them for their efforts. It's not often that you would think that maps would have an impact on construction, but there's a direct benefit to residents from the work that happens in that department. So please pass on the appreciation from the folks in my district. Thank you.
We'll move to citizens' comment. I have two signed up to speak tonight. If you're here to speak this evening, you'll be allowed 3 minutes on the subject of your choice. We do have 3 public hearings later in the meeting. If you're here to speak on one of the public hearings, there will be an opportunity later in the meeting. For any other purpose, now would be the time. First to speak is Peter Muscanello. I hope I got that right.
All right. Good evening, council members and mayor. My name is Pete Muscarello. I'm a financial analyst for the Dannon Company at 6165 Dannon Way, West Jordan, Utah, 84081. I want to voice our concern for the proposed water rate commodity rises for 2017-2018. Options A through D, the commercial rate is $1.69 per 1,000 gallons. This represents an increase of 12.6% over 2017 rates and 32% increase over 2016 rates. That's two double-digit increases proposed within the last 4 months. The West Jordan businesses should be very concerned about these budgetary oversights. For Dannon, this suggested price increase amounts to about $120,000 of unexpected utility costs annually. Our company budget is set at the beginning of the year. We can expect a reasonable annual increase based on inflation. However, with the proposed budget increases, this means we need to find $120,000 to cut out of our budget to meet our goals. This type of decision will jeopardize our ability to bring in more revenue and provide more job opportunities in the area. Raising rates by 32% in 14 months to become solvent again will hurt our bottom line for years to come and has already affected our plans to expand here in West Jordan. Commercial water users understand the need to raise water rates. We don't expect special rate privileges while the city loses. What we do expect, however, is fiscal responsibility and oversight. We have not seen increased rates over the last few years, but we still need the ability to budget increases. We as commercial water users need better forecasting to properly budget our businesses and consistent, reasonable rate increases in order to stick to those budgets. The idea to automatically adjust the rates based on Jordan Valley increases is good, as long as the increases can be communicated before the fourth quarter and are defendable. To conclude, the businesses of West Jordan recommend revising the rate increases in Agenda Item 7D to be more sustainable and predictable. Larger, unexpected rate hikes are bad for business, and choosing any of the current options will result in lower business investment and West Jordan citizens losing jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexandra Ephraimov.
Mayor and Council, good evening. Let's pause. Ladies and gentlemen, may we pause for a moment to reflect our common goals before we begin the business of this meeting. We are privileged to gather here together in a system that gives freedom to participate in our own governance, whether from within or through the strength provided by our personal faiths. We seek wisdom, understanding, fairness, and resolve in the fulfillment of our duties and in the pursuance of our goals. May our differences be respected and our common aspiration of promoting the public good be our guide in carrying out the tasks we are about to undertake. Thank you, and I do want to welcome the Boy Scouts. This is the beginning of citizenship, and you get to see when you can come up here, just like I'm doing. If you're unhappy, you can come and talk at the citizen comment. If you're unhappy, you can comment, but you can comment at this time. Now, on the business item on I, the 7I, you're talking about the general obligation bond being on the, possibly being on the election, this election, but you don't say how much. I think that's proper. Let's talk about transparency again. I've talked about it before, and I think we need to be transparent early. You don't tell us what the bond is going to be in October. We need to know now what that bond or anticipated bond is going to be. Again, the form of government. Nothing is perfect. However, the current government system we have here in West Jordan, I think, is absolutely appropriate. Keep in mind, it is true, if we don't like the manager, we can vote him out. Right now, we have 4 people on the council that are backing the manager. He's done some things I don't approve of. I don't approve of the police chief asked for 7 officers. And what did the manager do? Gave 1. So the 4 of you that are backing the manager, I wish you would, this coming budget, increase our presence for the policemen. We have a lot of domestic violence, and I suggest we do that. And plus, he's doing things on the entitlements, which I don't approve of. However, the other side of the coin, if we have a mayor council, what happens if we elect 10 years from now a mayor we don't like? We have to wait for that for 4 years. We cannot kick him out. However, under the manager council, we might do it. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak during citizen comments? Now is the time. Please state your name and address.
Steve Jones, 3234 West, 6920 South. I'm the resident that went with Councilman Anderson to visit another city's council meeting, and I greatly appreciate him taking the time. Even though I'm not in his district, he did take the time to go and visit and show me, and it was greatly appreciated. I just wanted to add one little quick thing to what he just mentioned, and that is in their report, in the police report, they gave it by district, and it really was quite informative, being able to look at different areas and how they were happening. And so I thought that was a worthwhile thing that I think can be added to ours. And the other thing was when they gave a presentation, their presentation was very uniform in how their pictures came up. And even though I'm not a resident of their city, it was very easy to follow where it was at, what pieces of ground they were talking about modifying, and just from one slide to the next, it kind of flowed really well. So I'm going to support what Councilman Anderson is. There's no reason why we can't glean from something that's already been done that seems to work. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in citizens' comments? Seeing no one, I will close the citizens' comments and move to the consent calendar. I have one change on the consent calendar that has been documented by our city attorney, and I'll allow him to read it into the record, if you would, please.
Clarify, Your Honor, that we're talking about item 5J, just a verification. Rocky Mountain Power's amount that will be remitted will be $883,296.53. And we do have representatives from Rocky Mountain Power present this evening. They understand the check will be prepared and ready for pickup tomorrow. I think Mr. Piper and I have both had it prepared for Ms. Mountaineer's pickup tomorrow. It's with your name and your address. Is that acceptable? No, it's made payable too, but it's at your address. You don't want that money? Okay.
Okay, with that change, I've had no one ask to pull anything. Councilmember Hagan.
Thanks, Mayor. I actually wanted to pull J, so if we can pull that from the consent.
Item J will be pulled. Councilmember Nichols.
Move to approve the consent calendar, changing J to what the city attorney has recommended.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Nichols and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion. Let's vote.
Councilmember Burton,
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey,
Aye.
Councilmember Haga,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
The vote passes 7 in favor.
Okay, I'm going to hear item J right now. Item J, approved resolution 17-38.
Authorizing. Point of order, we just passed J. Well, my motion was to approve the consent calendar with the changes in J recommended by the city attorney. It was just a point of order on that. We could reconsider it.
Request reconsideration.
Oh, you want me to talk? I have the floor. Thanks, Mayor. So I wanted to bring this to attention to the public.
First, you have to request reconsideration. It's been passed, so you would have to have a vote to reconsider hearing item J on the consent calendar.
But point of order, I think I asked to have J pulled from the consent item. If we can go back to the minutes and verify that.
I did hear the motion, or I did hear a request to have the item pulled. And then I witnessed what I saw as a motion, and I waited for a second. I heard it and a vote, and so I didn't want to intervene. Do you want me to, I'll step off the dais here and I'll talk to Mr. Haga about his concerns in the back if you'd like. I don't know what they are. I'll be prepared to address whatever the concerns may be, but I don't know if this is the place and time now to have that happen.
Now, let's get this clear now. I asked for an item to be pulled. Who made the motion to approve all the items?
Councilmember.
It was
Councilmember
second.
Nichols, and it was seconded by Councilmember McConaughey.
So, by a verbal mistake, J was still included in the consent items.
I took the motion not to be a mistake. I thought he was moving fast.
So, as I see it as chairman, the only thing that could be done is a reconsideration of item J, if you want to.
Do I have the floor, Mayor, to talk about it then?
Not until it's reconsidered.
I didn't hear what the mayor's statement. I concur with the mayor's analysis until that reconsideration is joined by others. That's not the place and time to discuss this.
Was the dollar amount corrected?
The dollar amount reflected an effort to...
Was that stated in the minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, the dollar amount was Rocky Mountain Power's acknowledgement that 1% had been taken out as a fee, and they're allowing it to be kept by the city.
So how was the total amount we're paying Rocky Mountain Power?
It is $883,296.53.
And for the purpose, can we reconsider that? And so I've asked to reconsider J so we can do a debate and have some discussion.
Is that a motion?
Yes. Just one last comment, then I'll bring it back another time. So I don't think I'll reconsider. I still propose reconsideration. I'll put it on the next agenda item, which I have right to do as an opponent, because you're saying I voted for it, correct? So I'll reconsider J on next council meeting.
The problematic nature of the fact is, if you've approved it, we'll give the money to Rocky Mountain Power tomorrow.
Whatever's legal.
All right.
I've been asked on the public hearing item 6 to move item B in place of item A for a particular resident that needs to be heard before. Is there any opposition to moving that? Okay, we will move to item 6B, receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 17-13, considering a general plan land use map amendment for 1.93 acres from professional office to neighborhood commercial and rezone from POZC, professional office with zoning conditions, zone to SC1, neighborhood shopping center zone for crossing at Campus View located at 7824 South, 7850 South, and 3800 West. TriStar Development, Jeffrey Burnson, applicant. Scott?
Thanks, Mayor. On the screen, you'll see an aerial of the property. It's directly south of Jordan Landing, and it's currently zoned Well, it's currently marked on the general plan as professional office, and it was rezoned back in 2007 as professional office. It's been on the market for several years. The applicant, as you've read, Mayor, is requesting to change the zoning from professional office now to SC2, which is a neighborhood commercial zone. And the purpose of that, the applicant can maybe go into it in more detail, but there are slightly different uses allowed in the SC1 that gives him flexibility to market and develop the property. The Planning Commission reviewed the request and has forwarded a positive recommendation to the council. We've also reviewed it against the merits of the city code and believe that it meets the intent of the general plan and the purpose of the SC1 zoning district. And with your permission, Mayor, the applicant does have a few slides he'd like to show you. It's the consideration tonight is the land use map amendment and rezone, but consistent with our code, he is required to provide a concept that may or may not be developed, but he'll show that to you. But if it's all right, he's prepared to show that to you.
That would be in order.
Okay.
Just to remind council, it is concept only. We're not approving any part of the concept plan.
Thank you.
You can turn this on?
It should be on.
Should be? Okay. Mayor, council, it's a pleasure to be in front of you again. This time I think under different circumstances than the last time, if you recall. We won't go over that though. This was brought to my attention several months ago as a potential opportunity to kind of clean up an area and create additional safety over hazards that already exist on an existing corner. As I'm sure you are all well aware. We had 2 town hall meetings and invited the residents of the neighborhood to come. The second meeting, I put together this particular slide presentation. I won't go through each and every one of these. Did show the current plan or the current maps for the general land plan and zoning, which delineates obviously the professional office and then the existing residential behind that to the south, which is actually proposed on the general land plan as high density. I think we discussed that in the Planning Commission that will probably not likely ever happen, which assuages, I think, concerns of the citizens that they had, considering that they have horse property there. They were concerned that if in the future they sold that property, that entitlement would not go with the property, but I hopefully think that their fears were assuaged into the fact that that would remain horse property there for them, even to the subsequent owner. Benefits, I'm going to skip that. Uses in the zone, we went over that. Proposed tenant types, we're looking at a single tenant type. After the town hall meeting, the residents that expressed a firm desire not to have a single tenant like a drugstore, CVS, or a Walgreens there, and I committed to them both at the town hall meeting as well as in the Planning Commission meeting, and here again we'll commit that that will not happen. So it would be a multi-tenant, probably 2-building development. I'll show you that conceptual site plan here in just a moment. You can see the corner in question there. I know that there were issues regarding the intersection as it exists currently. It's just not a very wide street to have all of that traffic that tends to come from Jordan Landing over into that neighborhood. Areas of which I have no control, nor would I have if we were to develop it, are people who are speeding down through the neighborhood, and some comments have been made that people have left transmissions in other parts of their car after that first speed bump. We would hope that the creation of a well-developed corner there, we are planning on putting an additional access point on the west side. We are working with the canal company currently to acquire that property. We will box culvert that, and then we will put an ingress egress right in, right out, which we have discussed that in our concept plan meeting originally we had, and I think that got very positive results. I think that if that creates anything, it might create a traffic pattern where people who are coming from Jordan Landing would choose rather to turn into our development, go out that other right out if they chose to, rather than continuing to come into this subdivision and turning in people's driveways and then backing out and causing, traffic concerns. I've sat out there several nights and had the opportunity to see some of that traffic issue. I've been there in the afternoon as well. That's along 7800 South there. One thing that we would create with our development there will be to offset the sidewalk, so there will actually be a park strip in between 7800 South and the sidewalk, which I think will greatly increase safety for that area and for the residents as well. And we will also have the opportunity to improve cosmetically and aesthetically the viewpoint that one would get from 90th South, particularly coming out of that intersection from Jordan Landing. Again, that's just a shot looking south across from Jordan Landing. That's an aerial looking down on the 3 homes that you can see there. Again, the property continuing on to the west, that west access point would fall just to the east of the professional office spaces wall that's there now. So that would be, I think, very convenient for, again, that access point for having dual access to the property. We would also, as part of, in discussions with the traffic engineer for the city, is we will be widening by 12 feet 3800 West. So that will actually create a right turn lane going north, coming out of the subdivision for people to access 7800 South going east. So I think that creates, instead of having 2 lanes of traffic there, you've got 3. And so I think that gives you an opportunity, or gives the residents an opportunity to have a little safer intersection. That's just kind of the concept that we have rendered as far as what we're looking at with 2 different buildings. We're looking at one, might be a fast food, might be a sit-down restaurant, and then another multi-tenant, small service retail type of development. That was what we were looking at. That's a CVS, actually. That doesn't exist, nor will it exist. Again, this is not ours. Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I thought I had one more, but I don't. I thought I actually had the site plan overlaid, which shows the widening of 13th West, or 3800 West. But anyway, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address that. I would like to make a couple of comments quickly. We don't have any control over the trail system that exists on the canal side of this equation. I know that that's been brought up in the past, that the canal has, that walkway back there for the Utah County Distribution Canal has caused some issues with a lot of the residents there who have animals, but we don't have a way to control that because that access has to be maintained for the canal company. They own it, and that's to service the canal. The other thing we don't have control over is we don't have control over people continuing to go through the intersection or going into the subdivision. We would hope to create a different traffic pattern for those people who choose to come in there. And then I think by widening that intersection and realigning the crosswalk, at least on our side, I think that will be a great safety feature for the residents of the area and anybody who would choose to be a pedestrian along 7800 South and 3800 West. Thank you. If you have any questions, be happy to answer those.
Questions from council. Councilmember Hagan?
Yeah, all of us that have left and entered Jordan Landing know where this is, I hope. As far as the road that it goes into, if you can get to that, there's one that actually shows the road. Anyway, is there a option to vacate that road and just make it a dead end to prevent traffic crossing and accidents, do you think, on your part, maybe buying
dead end where?
Well, in other words, the city owns that road, and I'm wondering if you're willing to improve it, maybe, because we did that to a road three down when they expanded.
Yeah, you dead end this, nobody has any access in or out of the subdivision. You've got to have, this is the access point to and from this subdivision. This is the only one but people have a full turn opportunity. So this road has to stay open. It services everybody in that subdivision area.
So if I'm, after you're done, I'll ask staff a question. Thank you.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank you for taking the time to put this together and do this and holding your public hearings, your town hall meetings, which aren't required, but you did that anyway and met with the residents in that area on 2 different occasions to get their input. So thank you for doing that.
I think that's all the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing for item 6B. If you're here to speak on this item, now would be the chance. And I do have one sign up to speak. First, Wayman Patton. You don't need to speak, okay? Anyone else wishing to speak, please, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Rick Perkins. I live at 7864 South, 3800 West. I'm going to be the home that's going to be right there, that's going to have the wall and then the buildings. I understand why they want to do this, and I appreciate the time, Mayor and Council. I guess I just want to reiterate what was kind of said in the other meeting with the Council, is us as a neighborhood would just really like to have that, if that intersection is going to get changed around, that we have some signs out there that tell people that is a dead end, because it doesn't go anywhere. It just goes right down in the neighborhood, down to a circle. So if we could reiterate to have and some speed bumps on that road, because we do get a lot of traffic, and that's been said before. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate what we feel is a community that we would like to have. If this gets built, that we have that, some major signs and some stuff down the road that just slows down traffic, because I do believe this is going to bring in some traffic either way. So, but thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Hello, I'm Sydney Stone. I live at 8003 South, 3685 West. Thank you for giving me a few moments to speak. Years ago, our neighborhood didn't put up much of a fuss when we were talking about changing the zoning from residential to the professional office, because we were cognizant of the fact that there were adjoining properties that were already those POs. And we were given an assurance at that time that they were aware that we were residential, and they wanted to put something in there that would be kind of a buffer for us to protect us from commercial development coming into the neighborhood. So that zoning change made sense to us as a compromise, as I say, to keep the commercial out. However, we're now talking about changing it from the PO to the residential commercial. And that doesn't make sense to me. And I know it doesn't make sense to a lot of the residents from the perspective that it really isn't close to the same kind of zoning when you move from professional offices to the commercial. And I was a little stunned as I, at the last minute, found the subtle link to the prior meetings. He indicates that the neighborhood was invited to the town hall meeting. We were not. They put out a flyer on the doors to people within 300 feet of these proposed changes, which is just a few homes. And in fact, they did it, as I say, on the door. There was a windstorm. They blew down the street, so that a few other people found out about it, but the majority of us in the neighborhood heard nothing about it. One of the other things that kind of stunned me was in the agenda it indicated that we're trying to zone to the SC1, which is a neighborhood shopping center zoning, and that it goes with the crossing at Campus View located at 7824 South through 7850. So those are the addresses of the three residences. Now, as I read that, what it looks to me is they're saying, okay, here's what's going on at Campus View, and we want to include now the same zoning across the street in my neighborhood. And that, as I say, really doesn't make a lot of good sense to me. We've already mentioned that we do have traffic concerns in that intersection already because of Jordan Landing and Bangerter, and we only see that that problem will be exacerbated by the proposed changes. We're going to be adding the deliveries of these major vehicles making these sharp, tight turns. We're talking about lighting, the garbage issue with the compactor, hydraulics, smell, blowing trash, grease trays.
You'll have to finish. Your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, let me just run to the very end here. If the uses for the zoning are so similar between the PO and this residential commercial, I keep asking myself, why can't the proposed builder build professional offices as it's currently zoned? Why are we asking to change the zoning? Why are we talking about introducing another zone?
Your time is up. Hey,
All
we
right.
have to be fair to all.
I just hope that you'll give us a modicum of protection by continuing with the current zoning. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak, please?
I'm David McComey. I live on 7947 South, 3800 West. One of my big concerns, and you can see it on this map, everything to the east all the way to Bangerter, if they want to go across or go west, they have to come to 3800. That's a lot of houses. And even though they're talking about widening that end, the fact that they'll go across into the commercial buildings to the left or west up there to allow people to come in, we now would have those people from the buildings on the west also trying to use 3800. 3800 is a nightmare. It is absolutely a terrible intersection. If you go east one street, that's 3725, I think. It was blocked from anybody going across or going west by that concrete median they put in. Then you go 3620, which is the one closest to Bangerter. You'll notice the corner right there. It looks like an empty lot in this, but it's really got an orchard in it now. But the street was eliminated coming out. So if we had an emergency and there's a big wreck on 3800, it could be an issue for this neighborhood. I moved to West Jordan in '72, thought I'd bought outside of Salt Lake far enough to the city ever catching up with me. So I've either lived too long or way miscounted how fast everything grew. But I think we need to use some common sense here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jolene Alder. I live at 7948 South, 3800 West down the road, pretty much near him. But I just wanted to put in my vote for either keeping the PO the way it is. If they want to build something, build the professional office. It makes more sense to continue down with professional office right next to, over the canal. It's going to be the next building. So that's my vote. I do think the intersection needs to be improved, but that might do that also. What I understood was the developer didn't want to do that because of economical. If he's going to invest, it better be profitable. So I just don't think that's a good enough reason to uproot our lives for that. So professional office makes more sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm here, I might as well. Kelvin Green, 7707 Battlefield Cove. As you all know, I'm on the Planning Commission, and we made a favorable recommendation on this particular piece of property. And the difficulty that we faced during that, the public hearing, was the balancing of the three people that own that particular piece of property, the balancing of them plus balancing the neighbors. And we did not think that the changes from the PO to the SC1 would create a substantial difference for what was permitted on there. The thing that did concern me, and I know it concerns some other members of the Planning Commission, is that intersection at 3800 West is a terrible intersection. We've all driven through there. We know how bad it is, and I think that as we look at this project, the city this is kind of an expansion, but the city really does need to look at that intersection. And what's the best way to, and I know we talked to the city engineer and those things to really put that intersection as a priority to fix. Appropriate signage, appropriate lights, maybe reworking the north side with that funky interchange that comes out of Jordan Landing, some better right-hand turn lanes, some of those kind of things. And I think that we really do need to take a look at that, because we empathize with the neighbors on that one, is that intersection is terrible. As the city can work with that, we thought it was a good project. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Mayor, I just need to intervene just for a moment. Mr. Green's comments reflect his opinion, his personal opinion, not that of the council's Planning Commission generally. Any commission, I just want to make sure you're clear. Those are your representations, not the Planning Commission's. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, no disrespect being so casual, but the shorts are due to a medical condition. I read through the staff reports.
Sorry,
my name is Ronald.
Name.
My name is Ronald.
Name and
Stone.
address.
Yeah, Ronald Stone, 8003 South, 3685 West.
Thank you.
I've read through the staff reports. I used to write those reports. I was the public official for 30 years. For 9 of those years, I was the city planner for the city of South Salt Lake. And I'm here to say I believe it's premature to change to a commercial district of any form. When that facility was built at Jordan Landing, it was intended to be a regional shopping center with mixed-use components. You have all of that there right now. And as far as the office buildings not being appropriate or a valid build-out, there's at least 5 brand new professional office buildings that have been built in Jordan Landing. The express purpose of zoning is to mitigate impacts. As I look at the proposal, it does none of it. Maybe a site review. I would like to plead with you to hold off on this thing. Expediency for a few should not be confused with planning for the many.
I'm sorry, your time's up.
No,
I know that. That's why.
Mayor, if I can have a point of order real quick. When you started the time, Melanie, it was 1 minute, 12 seconds. So, so he needs 2 more minutes.
Is it reset? Okay, it looks like you get a little extra time then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The city of South Salt Lake was an industrial city, and it became blighted with many vast open areas, and it wasn't realistic to decide to put commercial or industrial back in it. So the emphasis was to put residential back in. This proposal will tend to chew up the apartment complexes across the street, the old junkyard in the middle of the subdivision for commercial purposes. It's the next step. What I say is, like, I used to write these reports for 9 years, and I know the consequences on people's lives. And to not include all the people in that subdivision in a decision of this import is wrong-minded. 300 feet did no service to anybody. The city's got what it wanted. It wanted a mixed-use concept there. We're part of that. Residential. The proposed zoning is not contiguous with any other commercial district unless you want to jump 7800 south. That's not contiguous. That's why the subdivision did not fight the PO zoning, which was. I would hope that you'd consider keeping it the same for further study and more access. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Alexandra Ephraimov, 3735 Judd Circle in West Jordan. I'm a little bit confused about a couple of the people that came up prior to me. And if there was a meeting, why were all the people not advised of the meeting? We go back again to transparency. I have always been against us not being transparent. Now, if the wind blew some of those signs down, was it not on the internet? I don't understand why we don't expand and be more transparent in the entire complex here. I think the people were not heard. They were not advised of the meeting. According to some people here, that is not right. I'm suggesting we have another meeting before we vote on this and invite all the people that are involved. Plus the fact, the Planning Commission, I don't know, it doesn't say whether they're for or against it. Mr. Green spoke his own personal opinion, but according to this, I don't know myself whether or not the entire Planning Commission is for it. And it's true, 3,800 is very, very, needs to really, you need to really look at it, really, really. And I'm just a citizen listening to this particular explanation here, but it breaks my heart when there's a meeting taking place and everybody in that neighborhood or those that are affected by something that's going to happen in their neighborhood, and they're not advised. That is not right. And I'm suggesting we have another meeting before we vote on this, because I think it is not fair to include all the people that are involved in that particular area or that particular neighborhood. And I don't know. I wasn't there when they proposed a professional office. To me, professional office would have less traffic than if there is a professional traffic rather than neighborhood commercial. And it just, traffic situation doesn't sound right at all here. But I'm suggesting, do not vote on this, table it, and let's have another meeting where all the people can come and take part in it. It's not right. We need more transparency here in West Jordan. It's not right. Thank you.
Just to be clear, this is the second public hearing, and the requirements of the law have been followed.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
That is correct. In fact, state law requires us to hold one public hearing. We go above and beyond in West Jordan. Notices were sent out for the Planning Commission meeting and tonight's meeting.
And it's been posted online and
correct.
At the site.
And on the site.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
My name is John Shepard. My address is 7878 South, 3800 West. I had no intention of speaking. I don't feel like speaking. But when we can start placing these decisions on a man's opinion that he's sit and watched this intersection for several nights, well, I sit and drove through that intersection several times a day for 40 years. And as far as how that impacts the streets, I think everything that has been so far come up with has been much the same as the rhetoric I would use. If you can train people to do this, and if they will use a certain route, and everything will be fine. And I could use the same thing. I'm a shepherd, and if I can train my sheep to go out and water themselves, to feed themselves, and then come home and lock themselves up at night, I won't have to have that responsibility. But that doesn't happen. Traffic will be much the same as it is. What we need to do is start working a little more about educating people, taking the laws that are already there. We have never had very little traffic control on our street. I watched the sports car go down my street a few minutes before I came, and I was about to go out and stop him myself. So what we're talking about, change the intersection. I think what we're using is a Band-Aid, and personally, my thinking is that the city council or the planning council sits and says they have to weigh the people who live there, their values against the people who are coming in and they want to make money off the property. They got values too. But I think what we do is we kind of lose track of the scales we're talking about. City council, they look at the scales of justice and all this, and I think somewhere along the line, they watch too many of these old westerns or something where the only scales they see are not really scales, they're balances to weigh and measure gold. And I think that's where the whole thing comes from. I know Mr. Bernstein, that's his only one and only. There's no other except for the bottom line for the gold. People that live there do. I don't care that it's been rezoned. It's been rezoned for quite some time. I think the city council and the planning council, that's my opinion, I think they've been relentless and very consistent about reducing that particular subdivision to the simplest forms again, which is just farm property, so they could put whatever they want on it. And the people that are there, they can move on or I chose West Jordan to live in, and I didn't think that I would ever come out and say, well, I think I would rather at this point live somewhere else. So you make your decisions as you will, but I figured that I would not leave without saying my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing for item 6B and turn to the council for motion or discussion. Councilmember Haga.
Thanks, Mayor. I apologize. I had to step out with the city attorney because I thought I had pulled an item, and out of disrespect from other council people, I guess either they didn't hear me that I pulled it, and so anyway, there was some confusion. So I have some questions from staff if I could. I know we're rezoning, and I'm really not an opponent of rezoning this. However, I think the road is problematic, and my only question is because it's such a high traffic area. In fact, 7800 South is one of the busiest streets in the county, and we're talking about a new commercial building perhaps being built there. Is there options as far as vacating the beginning of that road, which is 3800 west, and having the road go west and then north, so we can wrap and kind of, instead of a straight shot off, I think that's Jordan Valley Boulevard, I don't know, the one that comes out of the...
So you're proposing to cut access here?
And go around in over to 78th. Could the developer do that as far as a condition?
Well, and Mr. Rigby can probably weigh in on this as well, but right now, with all the improvements put in here, there's a raised median that runs the length of 78 in this location. If you were to cut the road here, all the folks living in this neighborhood would only have a right-in, right-out right here, and that's it. And so that would probably be well, it would be problematic for emergency vehicles and just the function of that neighborhood.
So, Scott, but if I'm not talking about eliminating a road out into 7, I'm talking about kind of just having it go west where the new development would be, and then north into 70th South. I don't have a pointer like you do, so, but do I have a pointer? All right, so in other words, vacating up there, but having the road go up through there.
Oh.
So, because I know fire has to have an in and out, and I know we vacated that road there, and the only road out is that one and that one. But I'm talking about, yeah, there you go. Thank you.
This is the canal, and it's used for service currently. It wouldn't line up with any clean intersection here, but that's more of a traffic engineering issue. Depending on the use that the applicant, if the council does approve the zoning and he moves forward, depending on the use associated with the site plan, may or may not trigger a traffic study to go along with that. So we'll definitely look at that.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. For my concern on this, and it was a question for staff as well. The concern for me is the relative neighborhood impact from professional office building to an SC1 type of a zone. The buildings immediately west of this, across the canal, are medical offices, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? PO zoned?
Yeah, it's a mixture of dentist office and so forth.
Right, okay. So in a dentist's office, for example, it kind of functions a lot like a commercial building, right? You got customers coming in, you got customers going out. I happen to work in the same parking lot as the dentist's office, and it's very busy all day long. Do we have a number or a statistic or something that talks about maybe vehicle trips or something about what the potential impact would be of an SC1 versus, for example, a medical park like that?
So I don't have a trip generation log in front of me. However, just based on our parking requirements, medical office uses typically demand a higher number than regular retail and some restaurant uses. So medical uses have a lot of in and out. So again, I don't have any hard numbers to give you, but based on our parking requirements, medical office is right at the top.
Okay, appreciate that, thanks.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. So this intersection, as I've spoken with the residents, is a problem. I've been in contact with our city traffic engineer about this. So whether this proposal goes through or not, I believe that he's going to continue to follow up on that, and we do need to make some changes there regardless because of the situation that's there. And then I want to acknowledge that those 3 lots that are there, the advantage, well, one of the reasons that this caught my attention in the first place, because those houses that are right along, one house that's right along 78, as you may have noticed on the pictures that he showed, the fence is in disrepair, and as I spoke to the owner about that, as he continues to repair that fence, the snow plows, because of the close proximity to 78 and no parking strip, causes much damage on there, and frankly, it's been an eyesore for several years. So we've been looking to try to find a way we could correct that problem, and replacing that fence with another fence doesn't seem to be working. Making that, continue to keep that residential right against 78 doesn't seem to be a good choice. So I'm of the opinion that that is a good location for a commercial spot right there. And obviously the residents there must think that's a good location for residential because they're willing to sell their house to move from there. And I think this would clean up a lot of issues that have happened in there and help reduce some problems, won't resolve all the problems, but reduce some of the problems that are there at that intersection. And that intersection does need some attention, as does that sidewalk. Even before this proposal came, I've been looking at this, trying to find some ways we could do some things on there. So based on that information and the findings that have been set forth in the staff report, the recommendation from the planning and zoning, I would move that the City Council approve ordinance 17-13, amending the future land use map from professional office to neighborhood commercial and rezone the 1.93 acres from professional office zone to SC1, neighborhood shopping center zone, on the property generally located at 7824 through 7850 South, 3800 West.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Burton, a second by Councilmember Haga. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I would speak in opposition to this. There's a few different items that I'd bring up, but since our time for conversation was cut short with the motion, I'll just state my opposition for now. Thank you.
I just have a comment. Wendell, whether this passes, this motion or not, can we address, have Bill get on some no outlet signs and possibly speed limit signs to help the
Yes,
residents?
we'll have him start looking at that intersection.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you. Just to add on, thank you, Mayor, for bringing that up. Wendell, also, I'd like to just add to that, and perhaps somebody might be interested tonight. There is a specific procedure we have about traffic calming measures in the city. Sounds a little bureaucratic, but it's the way to be equal with all the city, that we don't treat one intersection or one residential neighborhood better than another. But the idea is that basically it's a petition that you sign, and you can really, I don't remember the number, but it goes to the city and they'll rank it based on traffic load and everything else, and you may end up with speed bumps or some other measure depending on how urgent the need is in the city. And we do that on a regular basis. So I just want the public to be aware that that's a process that they can do with our Public Works Department at any time.
Correct.
I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
We have a neighborhood traffic calming program that was approved by the council about 12 years ago. And so we use that just as you explained. All they need to do is just make an application, and then we go through the process.
Thank you.
Just you want to explain the definition of the difference between signage and traffic calming?
Yeah, traffic calming would be like a good example of speed bump. We just, there's a neighborhood not too far from City Hall here where they've got two really close, because what they found is one wasn't enough. One just slowed you down and they sped up again. So they actually have two speed bumps. But the difference is we obviously don't want to just put speed bumps everywhere in the city, because we have issues like snow plowing and such. So we need to plan them in a very smart way, and for those locations that really warrant it overall. We compare it at citywide. Was that? Yes. Thank you. Now to go on to the motion. For me, it's 4 issues. No particular order. I just wrote them down. It's the impact, the impact of the change. PO to neighborhood commercial, safety, traffic, and then also property rights. And let me just hit on each real briefly. The impact for me, PO to neighborhood commercial, really all in all is negligible. It's already PO, and go from PO to neighborhood commercial, very comparable, I think, as far as you're going to have visitors that are coming and going. If we built PO today, if we did something with PO, it's going to be very similar, in my opinion, to neighborhood commercial. The importance is when it comes back with the plan that we're very smart with how we deal with it. But as far as zoning goes, to me, it's very comparable. Safety. The safety is a big issue for me. That sidewalk is horrible. Every day I drive by that and somebody's walking it, I do drive by that thing twice, or well, at least one directional, at least once a day, going eastbound. If somebody's walking out, you feel like you're going to hit them. I mean, even though there's a little bit of a space there, you just feel like you're going to do it. And if kids are playing and they're tossing around, it's even worse. I mean, you're breaking and everything. It's a safety problem. Any kind of development in this spot will help it, the safety problem. I still have a concern with the safety of the intersection, but obviously we're going to have to address that. And that's a city issue. That's not unique to the development. I think the development can help that. Moving on to the traffic, I am a little concerned about having any kind of development, but professional office way to say they can do it, that's fronting residential. It's just, the best decision would have been to have PO across the street as well in the east a long time ago when it was planned, so that you don't have a neighborhood facing a PO or a neighborhood commercial or any kind of development like that. But what is what it is, it's PO today. So those residences immediately to the east, they would have to face that reality, whether it's professional office or neighborhood commercial. Again, it's going to have to deal with the long-term development. So the last issue for me is the property rights. And it's always a tough call because you have the owners of the property who have this specific parcel, and then you have the rights of the neighbors who immediately abut it. And how do they infringe on each other? And if you just come right out and say, I believe in property rights purely, you would say the landowner has all the rights and the ones adjacent don't have any. But we always, in the city, we have to make that compromise every time, is when do they infringe? And to me, I'm asking myself, is this landowner infringing on them? And I'm weighing towards no, only based on the fact that it's already professional office and I revert back to the impact. I know it's not perfect. But I just think it's an improvement. It's going to, more so than anything, I think safety is what's kind of winning me over. Where it is today, that intersection, it's horrible. And it needs some improvement. And I think this development, and with the city working with them very closely, it's going to help that out. But anyway, as far as cutting off that neighborhood and moving, no, I'm not at all interested in that. So anyway, that's where we're at.
Councilmember Hagan.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, just because we're in debate on the issue, I think this is a good land use. I really do. However, part of our responsibility is public safety, and is that intersection safe? With a new commercial development. Only our professional traffic engineer can determine that. That's why I would suggest, again, we're in a zoning and rezoning process right now. I would suggest that besides what the mayor has and Councilman Nichols has recommended, that we seriously consider some kind of detour of that road and like I say, west to north into 70th. So there's only right way in or a left from the main intersection. And the city has in the past vacated roads. We did that right there at the corner of 78th and Bangerter. So it's something that's doable. So I'd ask the staff to look in that. I rely on their professionalism, but I think it's a good use of this property. So thanks, Mayor.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Previously, I had said I would hold off on comments since there was a motion and a second. And since we've still continued with the conversation, I'll just add my thoughts in here anyway. As I'm looking at the current zoning, do we have something that we can show that shows the broader area?
That's the wide angle right there.
The same area, but with the current zoning.
Oh,
This is as close as we can get.
Got it.
That'll work.
Okay.
By the way, another comment about our GIS group. I really love having the ability to jump on the website and pull up the maps and see everything and adjust right there at my fingertips. Anyway, so we've got a professional office zone, another professional office zone that's being discussed to change to neighborhood commercial. And then just to the right of that, we've got another little PO zone. If we change this is going to make a little island of neighborhood commercial in the middle of a strip of professional office. That seems like spot zoning, which is contrary to what the general plan suggests. What my concern would be that as we continue to develop, this other professional office area would also then later become neighborhood commercial, and it would kind of continue the trend, which was not what was intended. It's zoning by almost coincidence, just one domino falls and then another, then another. That's part of my reason for voting or for raising my opposition to this. The other one is I very much like what was proposed by the developer. However, we're not looking at the property with that specific development in mind. That was just a concept plan. Reality is, if we change this zoning, somebody else could come in. Let's say this development falls through, well, we permanently change the zoning. Somebody else can come in who hasn't made the public commitments to those improvements that were brought up, and they would be legally entitled to build whatever happens within that zone. If we knew for a fact that there was a certain way things were going to be built, then I would be less. I would be more optimistic and willing to give the developer the benefit of the doubt and go along with it if we knew, okay, this is exactly what's going to be built. There's no concern about transfer property or anything like that. Mr. Langford, was there anything you want to comment or rebuttal?
Well, the interesting thing, and I was reading through the report that Mr. Gardner wrote, and I don't think it came out, but...
Point of order, Mayor. We're in debate on that motion.
You have the floor, and he authorized the staff to.
Thank you, Mayor.
So the point, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the developer, but as we met with him early on, as you'll notice on that slide, there's zoning conditions attached to the professional office zoning designation. We don't do that anymore. You know, you meet the merits of the code, and you should play by those rules. Back in 2007, when that was rezoned, the council attached 2 conditions prohibiting bail bonds and fast food restaurants. As you've seen from the applicant's presentation today, he intends one of the potential uses on the site would be restaurant. Now, the funny thing is, our professional office zone allows for fast food restaurants and general restaurants. So does the SC1 zone. The thing that he ran up against was this old zoning condition that prohibited from moving forward. That was the main crux of coming and rezoning the property. It also, SC1 does give them more flexibility, but you know, the professional office zone allows for 40-foot maximum height with the ability to go higher. The maximum height in SC1 is 35 feet. So there's some trade-offs between the two zones. But I just wanted to make sure that the council was aware of the existing zoning conditions attached to the current zoning.
Thank you for that clarification. The conditions on the zoning didn't jump out to me. So knowing that we had those conditions and those were expressly prohibited before, not knowing the background as to why those were in place, changing this would allow something that was expressly forbidden previously to be introduced. It makes me that much more hesitant to support the change at this point in time. So again, having added those comments, I would express my opposition to the motion that's on the table. Thank you, Mayor.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Anderson?
No.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
No.
Vote passes 5-2.
Public hearing item 6A, receive public input regarding resolution 17-18, which authorizes a ballot measure to change the form of government to a council-mayor form with a 7-member council, and which approves language to be included on the ballot for the November 7, 2017 general election. All public comments reasonably related to this general topic are appropriate. We'll now open the public hearing for item 6A. Councilmember Hagan.
Because I'm neither a supporter or opponent of this issue, and I don't want to influence or even probably be in the vote of this item, I'm going to recuse myself from the dais at this time. Thanks, Mayor.
Public hearing is now open. Please.
Alexandra Ephraimo, 3735 Judd Circle. I thought 2 weeks ago there was comment about establishing a citizen committee to discuss these two forms of government. And today I see nothing in here, so I don't know, has the idea been dropped? And, you know, I do come up here and I offer certain suggestions. And in citizen comment, it says in there, sometimes there will be a council member to come and address my question. But every time I ever say anything, nobody ever follows up on anything that I'm questioning. And so right now I'm questioning about, is there or is there not going to be a citizens committee to talk about these two forms of government? And then I heard that also there's a third 6-member council that is being possibly discussed. But anyway, what I said 2 weeks ago, I think this is too quick, too fast. I'm suggesting to wait until next year. But again, it's the powers to be, politics. But, you know, I just want to say not everybody has an internet. So, you know, I'm having difficulty in transparency. Right now, nothing is said about this citizen committee, and you did talk about it 2 weeks ago. You said that maybe it's going to be set up, but nothing, well, not in this particular thing. We're going to discuss it, I guess. But again, pro and con, council, I said it before, and I'm repeating myself, council mayor, 10 years from now, if we have a mayor, if we have a council mayor, we don't, after 6 months, we don't like that particular mayor, there's no way we can get rid of him. He or she, we have to hang in for 3.5 more years with that mayor. That's why I still like what we have currently. We still have the option, even though it's 4-3, 4 of you are supporting the manager and 3 of you are not. But I'm not happy with a lot of things that the current manager is doing, but that's politics for you, 4-3. 4 of you are supporting the manager right now. But nevertheless, pro and con, nothing is perfect. And I'm just saying that I'm still in favor of what we have now, and I'm still waiting to hear, is there or is there not going to be a citizen committee established? I heard through the grapevine that you were going to discuss it, but anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jason Knight. I live at 5138 West Pebble Rock Circle. I have a Master of Public Administration from the University of Utah. I've worked in local government for the last 17 years. I'm opposed to this proposed change in government for a variety of reasons. Most important, once changed, we lose the grandfathering of this form and can never return. The change is proposed, at least partially, to repair dysfunction at City Hall, but this method is the wrong method to do so. Our current form of government is the most efficient form when executed correctly because it places a professionally trained public administrator as the CEO. I have strong reservations about placing my tax dollars in the hands of just anyone who can win an election. An unqualified or untrained CEO can set a city back years with inappropriate financial practices or other missteps. There are several local scandals in recent years to illustrate that point. Unfortunately, a former version of this elected body chose to give the mayor an executive salary and implied the role has operational responsibility when it never has. I would suggest you repair that with this election cycle and reduce the salary and schedule expectations of the role of the mayor beginning next year to be appropriate for its statutory responsibility. A strong mayor form of government removes all operational oversight from the council, and this group becomes nothing more than a legislative body with budget control. If I call my council member right now with an operational issue like a snowplow problem, he can compel the city manager to respond to me. In the proposed form, the mayor doesn't have to respond to me or my council member, and there is no recourse other than for my council member to attempt to get votes to defund all snow plowing citywide, which clearly isn't reasonable. This elected body was not elected to change the form of government. Please stop attempting to do so. If you want to change it, don't use your elected positions to force the issue. Get out and get signatures like a normal citizen would, and I think you would find the support isn't out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelvin Green, 7707 Battlefield Cove. I've thought long and hard about where we ought to be with the city. Councilman Jacob posted a thing on Facebook last night that said, what would you like the mayor to be? The question is, I don't know. But as someone who's watched politics since I graduated from the University of Utah, long before most people were born in this room, the thing that I see as we look at cities around us is that for whatever reason, we're being left behind. I know when I was asked in the first appointment to the Planning Commission, one of the questions was asked of me is, what do you think the problem with West Jordan City is? And I was kind of honest, and I was actually surprised that you picked me. But we're at a crossroads, and West Jordan's going through a transition from an old rural town to an urban environment. And the question is this council form of government the most effective? It is an efficient form of government, but is it the most effective for what we need in the city? And I would suggest there's a difference between efficiency and effectiveness. What I'm hoping is that as we look at the change to the government, first I would have rather liked the person before me, I'd rather seen this done by a citizen initiative. That being said, I think that what we really need to do is take a look at the pros and the cons of this particular type of environment. Yes, we have a professional city manager, but we've gone through more city managers the last 15 or 20 years than we've had mayors. Probably twice as many if my numbers are correct. Those have come with high-paid contracts, contract buyouts, serious issues that that as you look at other cities, they hire professional administrators. The state, you look at every state agency, they have professional administrators. They're not under contract. They don't make a lot. They make an adequate salary, and they're professional. We need to do the same types of things. The one thing that I think we really need to be cognizant of, and that is what it'll cost. What are the costs to go to that kind of a government? City council is going to have a staff, and the city council is going to have to be more involved. Budget analysts, legislative analysts, those type of things will provide the oversight to a mayor's office, but we have to be an honest broker about what those costs will be. And I think that what we really need to take a look at, however we do this, is a solid debate and a presentation of the facts so that the citizenry can make a sound judgment, not an emotional one based on whatever we see as our form of government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Jones, 3234 West, 6920 South. I think I've been pretty involved with, since this topic has been brought up. I do find it interesting that council members that do not even represent me are the ones I'm going to their meetings to have this open discussion. This issue to me is not about whether it's on the ballot or not. It's the fact that there has been no debate. What we have right here is not a debate. It's me talking, you listening, that's it. I actually came tonight to the conclusion that pretty much it's not going to change. This thing is going to end up on the ballot just the way the council wants it to. I'm just here to let you know that from my perspective, it is wrong. It's wrong to do it this way. I am open to having a debate. I'm open to going to other cities and viewing what's there. But I am not open to having things run down my throat. So in my particular case, I will be using the vote that I will cast in November to reflect the feelings that I have right now. And that is you're going to have a tough time selling it to me because I'm going to dig in, because I don't think this is the way that it needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Hilton. I live at 8947 South, 2070 West in West Jordan, where I have lived in West Jordan for almost 40 years. So when I first moved into West Jordan, there were 20,000 people. One grocery store, maybe 3 stoplights, and I've seen a lot of changes. Been involved with a lot of those changes, and I've loved this city. Right now, I'm a little disappointed because I feel like the gentleman here, that this has been rammed down our throats. There is more than one type of a full-time mayor. We haven't even been able to discuss those as citizens or even find out, and a lot of people don't even realize that there's more than one form of government. And I've talked to several council, and you've all been very nice and very courteous. But the one statement that was made that kind of upset me, that came from a council person who happened to be my representative last night, made me feel like my opinion did not count no matter what I said, because all he kept coming back to was that the council has a right to put an initiative on the ballot. I, more than anyone, appreciate that and know that to be the truth. But one thing that I think that has been forgotten is we, as the citizens of West Jordan, have elected you to represent us. And I feel like the word us has been left out of this decision. And there's been nothing talked about a physical note, what it's going to cost the citizens. It's all of a sudden, we're going to do this referendum or this resolution. It's going to be put on the ballot. Sorry, come hell or high water. And then we'll teach the citizens about the 2 forms of government, and they can make a choice. What happened to our voice in this discussion before it goes on the ballot? Now, I know that now that it's brought up, there needs to be a time frame. And waiting another whole year is not the time frame. We need to dig in, we need to study it, we need to make a decision, and if we're going to put it on the ballot, which form of the full-time mayor do the citizens want to put on the ballot? I am not suggesting in any shape, way, or form that it doesn't go on the ballot, but I want us, as the citizens, to have something to say in this. And so I would really hope that you would rescind this tonight so that it can be fully discussed among the citizens and brought back before the August date when it has to be put on the ballot with the city recorder. That gives us plenty of time to achieve both goals, with citizen input and putting the motion on the ballot. So I please hope that you will rescind this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jason Newsome, 3262 West Freedom Lane. I don't have an eloquent speech or anything like that. I'm in District 1. I'm opposed to changing it. I'm opposed to putting it on the ballot. Just want my opinion heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Craig Deering, 8717 South, Royal Crest Drive, West Jordan, Utah. 84088, the good zip code. No, just kidding. You know, we've heard a lot of stuff in the last 16 years about why we want to change it, why we don't want to change the form. Let me just remind everybody that if the mayor becomes the CEO, we would still have a COO to professionally run the city. I wouldn't want someone that's just elected to come in and run the day-to-day operations of the city. We do have somebody that would do that, but they would work for the mayor. Someone asked or mentioned that why are we so far behind some of the other cities? Why are the other cities getting 20 times the amount of money at the legislature? Why are the other cities getting favorable programs to them, and we're not even getting anything much? I think as I look at it, and I discuss it with them, the people in those cities, the leadership, I believe that it is the fact that we do not have a mayor that can represent the city at the meetings when they're all being discussed, when things are being discussed. What do you want? What can you give? Whatever. We can't. Our form of government, the one we have now, somebody mentioned all the different city managers we've had. I'd hate to have someone ask me to name them on all of them out of my memory. Of course, that'd be terrible anyway, but I think and another thing I don't like are all the payouts that we have to pay those city managers when they leave. If your citizens knew what that cost was, it would be a fraction of what it would cost for a COO and to change this form. So the cost, I think, would be a lot, after the initial setup, would be a lot less over the years. And also, I have to ask myself, what are the costs? Because we're not getting the money. We're not getting the businesses. We're not getting the recognition that West Jordan deserves. I could go on, but thank you so much. So I would propose that we keep this on the budget. I don't know, the night you had the guy come and speak, I asked him back there, I said, is there any other form that allows a mayor to be a full-time mayor, or a strong mayor? And he told me no, so I don't know if he was correct or not, but that's what I was told. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will close the public hearing for item 6A, and we will move. Okay, if they're going to get up, they got to get up. I close it, it's closed.
Chris Robb, 6907 Clarinage Drive in West Jordan City. I like the comments that have been made. I agree with everybody. More information, more cause for discussion and debate, and that we can hear back from you based on the comments that we're giving to you now and how we're feeling. So more information would be helpful to see the advantages and the disadvantages of both things so we can make an educated choice at the ballot. Time, there's no rush. I don't see the rush, but again, we're not hearing from you why there is a rush. So if we could get some input back, that would be great. Reflecting the other comment that you each are elected for us. And so if we keep voicing this opinion that we don't want this to happen or we want more information, why wouldn't you concede to that? Why wouldn't you tell us that? Either through the paper, the West Jordan paper, or website, or another forum. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing for item 6A. Move to item 6C. Receive public input and consider for approval Ordinance 17-14, considering a general plan use map amendment for 4.35 acres from professional office to high-density residential and rezone from RR.5F, rural residential estate, half-acre lots, zone to R312 SHO, multifamily residential senior housing overlay zone for 90th South Assisted Living and Memory Care located at 2585 West, 90th South. The AIMTech Group. Mike Olson, applicant. Scott.
Thanks, Mayor. Nanette Larson's here to present this from the Planning Department.
Thank you, Mayor. So the application is to rezone the property from a RR.5F and an RE.5F to R312, which is multifamily 12 units per acre with a senior housing overlay, and also to amend the general plan map from professional office to high-density residential. The applicant is looking at developing the site for a convalescent care facility and a assisted living facility, which are both conditional uses in the R312 zoning district. And also because the applicant is also looking at rezoning the property with the SHO overlay, the senior housing overlay, it will also be required that only senior housing types will be permitted on the site with this rezone. The Planning Commission met on February 7th and forwarded a positive recommendation to City Council for both the future land use map amendment and the rezone. During this Planning Commission meeting, a concept plan was provided by the applicant as part of the rezone. This concept plan will change as the applicant submits it for the preliminary site plan and staff reviews it in the future prior to the plan being even reviewed by Planning Commission. During the Planning Commission meeting for the future land use map amendment and the rezone, a few of the surrounding property owners were concerned about an increase in traffic, especially along Lisa Avenue, which is towards the south here. Staff has already discussed with the applicant our requirement that the access to Lisa Avenue would be required to be gated, which would only allow emergency vehicles access. A couple of the residents also voiced a few concerns about a 6-foot fence along the perimeter of the site. Along the south property line, staff will also require during the preliminary site plan that a 6-foot solid fence is required prior to preliminary site plan approval. Staff has reviewed the request and found that it meets all 6 criteria on the general plan map amendment requirements and all 5 criteria for the rezone in the city code. Staff is recommending that City Council approve both the general plan amendment and the rezone.
Questions from council. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a really quick question. The property immediately to the west of this, that's the Granger Medical Clinic, right?
It is, yes.
It's IHC.
Oh, IHC. The IHC. Sorry, you're right. My mistake. Granger one's another block over. The field in between the two, is that a drainage basin? The grass between this property and the one next door?
Directly to the, yes, that's a detention pond for IHC. So.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that wasn't a separate parcel that could be affected by this rezone. So,
it's part of IHC, yeah.
Thanks.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. On the previous slide that had the proposed site plan, that one there, it shows the road going through to the residential area. I assume that's emergency access protected by bollards or a gate. Is that correct?
It would be a crash gate, and that's required by our fire department.
Okay, I just want to make sure it was kind of protected so that people aren't arriving and leaving there through the residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
just it would help, the council doesn't see many of these senior housing overlay districts, so I want to just clarify the process moving forward. They're going to have to go and get a preliminary development plan, and per last year's amendment to our code, preliminary development plans come back to the city council for review and approval. So just wanted to point that out. This is a little bit different. We don't get a lot of these senior housing overlays, so we'll get to see the site and all that detail in a future public hearing.
Okay. Does the applicant want to speak on this?
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. My name is Michael Olson. I'm with the AIM Tech Group. Address is 8138 South State in Midvale. This site, if we were to get approval tonight, we'll start working with city staff on the site plan. We're proposing 4 12,000 square foot buildings, and a total of 96 beds. That's 24 beds per facility. They're single level. They are not two-story buildings, so we wouldn't be like Building 4 and Building 3 would not have a view over the top of the fence into the neighboring backyards. Can I answer any questions?
Questions from council? Councilmember Haga.
Thanks, Mayor. I think this is good planning and good use for this land also. Because I am becoming a senior, and maybe this might happen to me, where I'm in one of these facilities, and we have this beautiful canal right there. I know staff talked about a 6-foot wall. What kind of assurance are you going to do to protect your residents from our canal when it's flowing?
We're planning to use a 6-foot high black steel fence all along the park and the canal, and a solid fence along the residential sides. There was some questions about what we would use as a gate, operating a gate to the park, and that will be an electronic gate that will have a keypad. Most of these, especially with memory care, the facility with the memory care patients, memory carers would not be out of the building unless they were escorted. Any other questions?
Councilmember Anderson.
Yeah, just one question. You mentioned the solid wall adjacent to the residential property. You said that would be taller, so
it would be a 6-foot high concrete fence. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. I met with some of the residents today, and one of them were talking about having access from your facility into the park and having the gate there. And their concern is their concern is children use that to go to school. So if you put a memory lock or something like that you were saying on there, would there be a way that they could have access to that as well?
Are you saying they're currently walking through the fields to
Yes.
get back into the park?
That's correct. There's like a 2-foot opening that they use right now.
I think we could figure something out that would work.
Thank you.
The idea is to keep the patients contained in the fenced area, but we can work something out.
And that's important. I'd probably be more concerned about the patients walking over onto 90th South than I would walking into the park.
Along the 6-foot high steel fence would be along 90th South also.
Guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now open the public hearing for item 6C. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, now would be the opportunity. Please.
Alexandra Ephraimo, 3735 Judd Circle, West Jordan. I'm only going to speak against the high density. I have been against high density in the city of West Jordan ever since I moved here 23 years ago. And again, just the mention of high density, I'm not sure how many floors. I mean, I I guess there are going to be 4 different buildings according to the map there as far as the assisted living is concerned. But the zoning R-3-12, that means, if somebody could explain that to me, does that mean 12 units per acre? I'm not really sure.
Yes.
Yes, 12 units per acre. Well, I'm against that. So, but again, that's my main concern. I'm against high density, have been, will be, and forever, whatever that may be. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
My name is Clint Warby. I live at 9121 South Lisa Avenue. We've lived there for about 40 years. We have reviewed at least the neighbors in that particular area, and we feel that the mitigating things that have been done by the developer and also mainly the crash gate is a very good thing to keep traffic from going through. The field has actually been used as a shortcut for many people to walk, to get either over to Reams or to get around. There are school children that use that now to get to Hawthorne Elementary. I guess we have to judge whether or not it's safe for the kids to walk through the seniors assisted living center by having access to that gate, whatever. And I guess that's an issue we'll just have to resolve itself down the road. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump for me to get from my house over to that assisted living. I'm not sure I can jump over that 6-foot fence, but I may need services, and it'll be nice to have that in the neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you.
Steve Jones, 3234 West, 6920 South. I'm going to as well speak in favor of this. I think this would be a wonderful addition to West Jordan. Of all the things I've seen the last little while, for once we have something that, I don't know, for me, I look at that and go, that's a good use for that piece of property. It looks like, just from the preliminary stuff, it's well laid out. I too have growing a little bit older, and also I have a family that I have to take care of. And having something within our city that's close and able to get to it just makes life a whole lot easier. Aesthetic-wise, I think these facilities have a lot to offer. I've got another type over by me on 70th South that, you know, frankly, you hardly know it's there other than the fact that every once in a while a car comes out. So I just think this would be a good addition to our city. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Barry Bessie, 8833 South, 3645 West. I would be in favor of this. I think it's a great use of the land and the best high density option there is. You won't even notice it's there. Thank you.
Thank you. I will close the public hearing for item 6C and move to the council for discussion on a motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple thoughts. First of all, I'll echo what most have said tonight, where this seems to be an appropriate use in an appropriate place. Timing is a little bit off. Personally, I would have preferred to see construction completed about 1.5 years ago. But I do think this is very, very timely. So I will be very supportive of this. The other thing that I will suggest is that while I can appreciate how some have been using this as a shortcut, I would not be in favor of trying to make any accommodations to, how do I word this politely? Effectively, people that have been using this have been trespassing. If there had been some sort of an incident, the property owner could have been held liable and could have been very, very difficult. As a city, we've seen where people have done things on city property and the city has borne the legal fault for some of the things that have happened. So I would not encourage the developer to make any accommodations to allow for continued, I guess it wouldn't be trespassing, but invited pedestrian traffic, especially when we're talking about kids going to and from school and we've got an open canal right there. That has me very, very concerned. So that's the only negative, if you could say it's a negative. Aside from that, I'm very happy with what's been proposed and supportive of that. Thank you.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yeah, I kind of echo Councilmember McConaughey. However, I do believe there might be a possible solution. We have several neighborhoods within the city where they have concrete pathways in between houses to get to schools. And so my thought would be maybe there is a way, as this is designed, where right along the canal there could be a pedestrian sidewalk that's fenced in to protect the pedestrians and the memory care. So it's been done in other places, and I thought that might be a workable solution to protect from the canal, protect from the memory care, but still permit that access. Thank you.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you. I just saw that green light. I was going to go with the motion, unless you.
Motion would be in order.
I think Councilman McConaughey had one more comment real quick. If I could defer to him.
He's actually had a chance to comment, so.
Okay, I'll make a motion and go from there. I just wanted to echo what's been stated about the liability. But I'm not going to go as far as to discourage the developer to do it, because when they get to that point, this is going to be their property. If they choose to allow the community through there, that's all their right, and I would love to see them, welcome them if that's what they choose to do. With that, I would move that the council approve this general plan map amendment and rezone of the property as presented in the packet.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Nichols and a second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be in favor of this motion. The one comment I wanted to add was regarding the idea of the city putting in a walking path right there. I have a couple of those in my neighborhood, and it's very difficult for the Parks Group to get out there to maintain it when it's disconnected from everything else, and you still have potential liability from slip and fall and maintenance. So I would not be in favor of trying to find some sort of manner to create a little island that the city would have to maintain. I do like what Councilmember Nichols said, which was just taking the information as it's been presented and approving that without any encouragement necessarily for developing some sort of walkway. So I will speak in support of the motion because it didn't include anything beyond what's in our packet. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. In my correspondence with the residents in that neighborhood, they were all unanimous in favor of this development, so I will be voting in favor of this development as well. It was from them that I got the discussion of the school kids going out, cutting through there, because otherwise they would have to go all the way to 27th and then up over to Jody Street, get back in, which I think would create some other hazards itself. So I like the idea that something could be looked at and at least entertained. If that's not in the motion, I'll support the motion the way it is. Thank you.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Mayor Roth?
Yes.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
The vote passes 7 in favor.
Mayor, I move for a 5-minute recess.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 5 minutes only, please. We got a long night ahead of us. Business item 7A will be discussed on March 22nd. So we are moving to business item B, discussion and possible action regarding the carnival proposal for the 2017 city celebration. Ryan?
Thanks, Mayor and Council. We're just bringing this forward tonight for approval to move forward with a contract for the carnival that'll take place on June 30th, July 1st, the 3rd and the 4th. City staff advertised for an RFP for a carnival. We received 3 RFPs back. They were scored accordingly as per the RFP. After that, the carnival committee met together and have come to the conclusion that Browns Amusement would be the best fit and value for the city during our celebration. To go above and beyond, Ashley actually did quite an extensive background check and reference check with all of the RFPs that were received, and Browns will be the best fit for our city, we feel. So we're just here tonight for approval and to move forward as directed. Thank you. Ashley's here also if you guys have questions. Thank you.
Questions of staff? No questions. So do we need a motion to, Councilmember Jacob?
I move to approve the carnival proposal for Browns Amusement and ask staff to complete the contract and schedule staffing and other as appropriate.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, a second by Councilmember Burton. Discussion of the motion?
Councilmember McConaughey. Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we take agenda items 7G and 7H next. And that's just based on the number of people who spoke during the public hearing, so they can hear the resolution while they're still here.
Anyone opposed to moving those two items? Okay, item 7G, discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 17-39, rescinding Resolution 17-18 regarding a ballot measure to change the form of government to a council mayor with a 7-member council and approving language to be included on the ballot for November 7th, 2017 general election.
Mayor.
Councilmember Hagan.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I'm neither a proponent or opponent of this measure, which under my own funds, I sought legal counsel. I believe this is a political issue. I'm going to recuse myself to avoid any conflict with my elected position as a city councilman. Thanks, Mayor.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. This is rather straightforward. We've had 2 public hearings now on this Resolution 17-18, and the overwhelming sentiment from the public that has come, in addition to the other public that has contacted me personally, I don't know about everybody else, but for me personally, the overwhelming sentiment far beyond whether anybody's for or against changing any form of government has been more time, more debate, more discussion, more information. That is by far the thought that is conveyed to me more than any other. So with that, because Resolution 1718 has a firm deadline in it that is only now a couple of weeks away, the motion or the resolution as proposed is to rescind 1718. I want to make it very, very clear to everybody who's here and to the 6 of us apparently on the council at the moment that I am not in favor or opposed to changing the form of government. I am very much in favor of hearing from the public more before we decide what goes on the ballot, and letting that be a decision that is made by more than 4 people in the city, but made by hopefully several hundred. If not, at least several dozen. I'd be happy with that. We've heard from 18 people now in the 2 public hearings. Yep, 18 people in the 2 public hearings that have come, and like I mentioned before, I had a town hall with a couple of dozen people who showed up there. I want more of that, and so my motion is not to stop debate on this issue, rather it is to encourage and broaden the debate on this issue, which is why this resolution is proposed, and I'll stop and allow other comment before I make a motion. Thanks.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Back on January 25th, I was one of the votes that supported Resolution 1718, and with it, I said I want more public input. There were a couple issues that came to light, and a few weeks ago at a city council meeting, I had proposed a resolution to solve the 2 issues in order to make the resolution better. One was on the council terms language, and the other one was moving the date so that we allowed more public input, then make the decision. I think this is a debate that we need to have. I think this is a chance for public input, and I agree with Councilmember Jacobs that that has been the prevailing comment from the residents is we want more input. There's been a few that have said no, and there's been a number that have said yes, that have contacted me. So the things that I just want to mention, I'm a relatively new resident of the city. I've only lived here for 5 years. I have interfaced with the city, though, for more than 20 years. I lived a stone's throw outside of West Jordan in the community of Kearns at about 6200 South. I was there for 20 years. I've had numerous interactions with the city as a resident of Kearns initially that caused me some discomfort, and I've been on the council now for 4 months, actually next week. So, there's three things that residents can vote for in any city. Number one, they can vote for ballot initiatives, general obligation bonds. They can vote for their elected officials, and they can vote for their form of government. I feel that the resolution 1718, I don't want to say I think it's going to be an uphill battle because it's the residents that are making the vote. All we're deciding to do is whether to put it on the ballot. So if we're going to go through the exercise of putting it on the ballot, then my belief is that we should do it better so that the residents of our community have the information to be able to make a vote so that it has a chance of a fair passage if we get to that point. So those are kind of my thoughts. I've been contemplating this for a very long time. I've talked to many of you about my concerns with Resolution 1718. And I did, like I mentioned, I did propose a resolution which I thought was a better resolution to solve the two issues, to buy time, to allow the decision to receive input from the residents on the various forms. But we had to start with something, and I started with Councilmember Burton's resolution as a 7-member council with a strong mayor form of government. To answer just a couple questions, I talked to Melanie a couple weeks ago, and we have had 12 city managers, interim city managers, acting city managers, and I realize acting city managers are a member of staff already, but we've had 12 of them, so named by the council, over the last 24 years. So that roughly is a city manager every 2 years, based on that. There was a Tribune article that was published in 2015, before I was on the council, that indicated that the Salt Lake Tribune editorial summed up the tax dollars spent on former employees who've left the employment, that we spent $420,000 in 14 months. So, my feelings are that the city can do better in every aspect. We can do better as a council, the administration can do better, we as residents can do better. I am a resident, obviously. And I think we can do better. I think departments can do better. I think employees can do better. We've got to not be sitting back and life is good. Going with however the leaf blows on the water. We need a direction. We need vision. And if this engages the residents to have input on how they want to be governed and what direction they would like the city to go, then that's what we need to do. We've got to get economic development coming in. We've got to get roads going. We've got to do better at our planning. We've got to do better at presentations. And I know there's some upgrades coming to the chambers here. But we just got to start being better. That's what I campaigned on 2 years ago. And even though I'm sitting here because of the flip of a coin, I did run 2 years ago, and I received 1,443 votes, which was 90 votes short of being up here earlier. So I do feel like I'm still connected to the residents. I do feel like I represent residents. So, number one, on my campaign website, when I ran 2 years ago, my statement was, imagine a better West Jordan. I'm running so the council can get back to doing the residents' work. We can do so much more if we work together. We can be better. We can be better at including and serving residents, better at creating policy, better at all facets of city government. And if that requires us to change our form of government so that we're not spending $420,000 in 14 months, if we can do better economic development and have businesses driving to come here, we are a first-class city. I would like us to act like a first-class city. We're the 4th largest city in the state of Utah. That should give us some opportunities to recruit businesses like a Facebook or like trucking companies or like other retail stores and expand on what Jordan Landing has and what it brings to our city. If we don't do something, then we will always be a bedroom community. Our kids will move away to other cities where there's plentiful jobs. So we need to decide how we want this city to be. I don't want to do this next year. It needs to be, have the discussion from our residents now, get the residents engaged. We as a council need to listen to the residents and do what they're asking us to do. And then we vote on whatever the residents decide to do this November. This is a really good city. It's a really great city, actually. I live here now. It's my city. And I just think we can do better. I'll just end with this. I know I'm taking probably way too much time, but I also know that I'm going to make some individuals up here unhappy tonight. I'm going to make some individuals happy tonight. When I attended the Taylorsville City Council, which I knew from my previous employer as the chamber president, we attended a city that's half our size, 11th most populated city in the state, and they had a better presentation for rezoning. They gave crime statistics by district. They gave a reverence, which is prayers and thoughts at the beginning of council meeting. One of the things we failed to mention is during the public comment, they actually had dialogue where the council answered the residents during public comment. I just think there's so much better and so much more that we can do, and if this dialogue will get the city moving, then I'm all for it. And I hope you all will too. And most of the comments I've heard have been, I want more information. I want more data. What options do we have? And I think these are the processes that we need to do to be responsive to our residents. Those are my thoughts. The last two things that I'll say is I'm not a novice on organizational management. I worked for a period of time years ago at a Blockbuster video store as a store manager, and I got rid of employees. I brought in better employees, and I went from last place in the region of 15 stores to become the number 2 store in the region when I left 6 months later. At the Chamber of Commerce, when I started, I was cautioned that there was only 4 months of cash left, and that they wanted to disclose that to me before I started, and I said, that's fine, let's see what we can do. And I was there for 15 years and turned it into a regional chamber of commerce representing multiple cities. And it's by having systems in place, it's by having processes in place. And if we're going to go about changing the form of government, it's not a vote I can make. I'm one vote out of 110,000 residents. That's all I can offer. However, if we want it to have a chance of passing, or we want to make a difference in our city, the citizens have to be behind whatever form we're going to take. And I think that's about all I have to say at this time. And I appreciate the time. Thank you again, Mayor, for allowing me to share my thoughts.
Councilman McConnell.
Thank you, Mayor. First up, I don't know if this was intended to be intended to single me out earlier tonight, but one of the folks who spoke earlier commented that he had attended open houses for council members regarding this topic, but not his own council member. Personally, I haven't held any open houses regarding this because I want to be very careful not to use this position to try and sway people one way or the other. Frankly, I'm kind of in the middle on this whole question of form of government. I'm under the impression that most residents in our city don't understand our current form of government, let alone the difference between our current form and what's been commonly referred to as strong mayor form. And I am highly doubtful that they understand the nuances between the various forms of council mayor form that are available. I think that there can be good governance regardless of the form of government, whether it's council manager or council mayor or even democratic republic versus monarchy or any other form of government. I think it's the people in leadership that have more of an impact than the structure through which they govern. So I've brought this up before, but if you go back to the founding of our country, one of the most important decisions that was made was what will be the framework for how our country is governed. We had the Constitutional Convention that had no timelines associated with it. They had those who had understanding, those who had interest, gathered together to, at times, very hotly debate how this country should be planned as they laid out the foundation for what they envisioned the future would hold. The way we've progressed to this point has not followed that same model that they laid out for us. I've suggested in the past that I think the process that we followed so far has been wrong, has been flawed. A specific option was chosen of the multiple forms of government available. A specific option was chosen without even a word of discussion by this full body of the council. You could argue that we didn't need to discuss it because ultimately it's the residents, not the council, who would decide what the form of government would be. However, a few minutes ago, as was pointed out by former council member Kathy Hilton, she stated, I want us, the citizens, to have something to say in this. Because one option was singled out, eliminating the other 5, most of the options have already been eliminated. The residents haven't had a choice they haven't had the opportunity to share their thoughts. The process should be, number 1, determine if there is citizen desire to investigate a potential change to the form of government. Number 2, if there is a desire, then we need to hold public meetings to find out what residents are looking for, share the information, help educate them about the different options that are out there, and let them help us understand what they'd like to see. Number 3, if after the public meetings there's a consensus, there seems to be a consensus, or even a significant group of citizens who think that the current form of government is not as effective, not efficient, but effective, then we should proceed to step number 4, and as a council, after determining which method seems to be most appropriate, as a council, follow the method outlined by state law and putting the question determined by the residents on the ballot. What happened with the resolution that we're talking about rescinding? It was a straight jump right to number 4. Everything else had been completely skipped. We really can't do that. For those, I have good friends who fall on both sides of the argument. Some who argue that having a strong mayor would allow us to advance more rapidly, help us take the strides, gain the respect, and start making the progress that as a city we deserve to be making. I have other friends who suggest that the current form of government we have now prevents us from taking too many steps too fast in the wrong direction. It seems to me like it really comes down to a decision of what are you more concerned with? Are you concerned of having a good mayor in that chair who's not able to make the progress you want to see? Or are you concerned about having a bad mayor in that chair and want to have some sort of natural impediment to going down what you see as the wrong course? Again, ultimately, I think it comes back to a question of who is in the seat, who are leading the city, rather than how are they governing. So I am very much in favor of rescinding the resolution that put the question, that determined which question would it be on the ballot. I'd like to see that pulled back. That said, I have no objection to continuing the engagement with the public to see what do they want to do, what would they like to see. If you're a proponent, for those I represent who would like to see a change in the form of government, I think I owe it to them to make sure that we do things right and position things in such a way that we choose the best possible option to go on the ballot so it has the best chance of success. For those who don't want to see a change and feel like the current form of government is the optimal, I want to make sure that we're taking our time and providing them with the information so that they can make their argument to stay with what we have. To this point, I don't think we've served either cause appropriately, so I'm in favor of rescinding Resolution 17-18. Thank you.
Councilmember Nichols. Thank you. Previously in this agenda item, I spoke significantly. I will do my best to keep it as brief as possible tonight. And what I really want to focus on is the comments that I heard tonight from 8 individuals. Ms. Efremo, she talked about the need for a committee in discussing this. Mr. Knight talked about the fact that we lose grandfathering by going away from our current form of government. Mr. Green talks about the difference of efficiency and effectiveness, and that we should have solid debate. Mr. Jones talks about the fact that we need to have debate. Ms. Hilton talked about where's our voice in this initiative, where it's at today. Mr. Newsom talked about opposing this issue on the ballot, just in general. Mr. Deering talked about our successfulness as a city. Why are we not successful? It's a good question. And Mr. Robb, I think it was Mr. Robb, I think I heard that right, talked about needing more discussion. Why the rush? I have those exact same questions. I have those exact same concerns. So rather than talking about how efficient I like our government the way it is, and I am a proponent of our current form of government, I'll be very transparent on that. But rather than talking about that, I want to talk about this, the fact that it's important to include the public in this process, and Resolution 17-18, although it complies with law and public hearing requirements, it, in my opinion, with the way it was presented, it actually did the opposite. It actually forced something on our citizenry and forced them to come out, and that's why we're hearing. And we've actually had this is the first issue in my 7 years on this council, 7+ years now, and that I've had consistent people coming, different people coming, and talking about this issue. I've had it for 2 public hearings here, in addition to a public town hall that took place. Well, it wasn't, I guess it wasn't advertised public, but a town hall that Councilmember Jacob had. And those 3 venues, I've seen different people. This has awoken them, and it's great. I love it. The public dialogue is a good thing. And with that, I want to make a resolution, I want to make a motion to approve Resolution 17-39, rescinding Resolution 17-18.
Second. I have a motion by Councilmember Nichols and a second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Mayor Rolfe,
Abstain.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey,
Aye.
Councilmember Burton,
No.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-2. 3.
Mrs. Briggs, may I just clarify, that's 4 in favor, 1 opposed, and 2 abstaining.
No, I recruited myself.
Okay, then we should have the record reflect 4 approved, 1 abstained, 1 voted in favor. I just want to make sure that the record is clear of what's
There were 4 council members who voted in favor.
Point of order, Mayor, I recused myself, just so everyone knows that I did not vote for this recension. I was in the audience, so thank you.
Item 7H, discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 1740, confirming an ad hoc committee to examine forms of government. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. This dovetails in nicely with the last item on our agenda, or the previous item, not the last is the last. The previous item, which is my opinion that we need more public input on the question of the form of government. Now that there's not an artificial timeline, or an arbitrary timeline rather, hanging over our heads, we have more time. We can allow the citizens to organize themselves into a committee, or we can do it this way as this resolution goes. There's any number of steps we can take now to get this public input. We can have more public hearings like we've had tonight, which I suggest that we also do. We can have more town hall meetings, open houses, however you want to talk to that, however each of the 7 of us wants to communicate with our residents. We have all these options available to us. One option that many of the citizens who have commented have requested, and it's one that I proposed last year when this topic came up, is forming a citizens committee. Now, there's a lot to debate on this subject as far as the citizens committee, whether it has to have the city council stamp of approval, or whether the citizens can just organize themselves and do it and then come and speak with us in citizens' comments. Or however we want to do that, and that's the discussion I'd like to have with this tonight. I've put some ideas into this resolution. I am open to the debate, the discussion, and changing details here in order to make it more amenable for more people. But this is, I believe, the next prudent step in resolving this form of government question, and that question being which form we may want to change it to and whether we may want to have a form to change it to at all. That question needs more public input. This is one way of gathering that public input, letting the citizens organize it and bring it to us. With that, I am open to questions or debate on this subject. Thanks.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I like how we proceeded with the public engagement when we were discussing the issues surrounding park funding. And there was a lot of conversation about whether we should adjust the fee, if we should adjust the property, or add a utility fee or adjust property taxes, or go another option. For those who weren't on the council at the time, we held a number of open houses, so informal meetings that were held at either libraries or public schools, where all of the council could be present and just engage with the public. Staff had presentations to help provide some education. I very much like going that approach. So I'm not sure if a committee is needed at this point in time. That being said, I'm not opposed to the committee at all. With what's been proposed with the committee, there are a few things that I would suggest we change. For example, Section 2 says its committee shall have 7 to 9 voting members, which include 1 to 3 members of the council. I would prefer to keep the city council out from the voting member seat. I'd like to see this as much a resident-driven process as possible without any pressure from us as a city council. So while it may be appropriate to have a liaison between the committee and staff, I don't want to see a council member or multiple council members voting on this as well. As far as the other sections, appointment of members says they shall be appointed no later than April 26th. I think that might be a little bit quick. I'll just say that I think that might be a little bit quick. Section 4 says that the committee shall report their findings no later than June 28th, 2017, unless a later date is approved by council. This goes to the comment, actually, Councilmember Jacob, you made about trying to avoid artificial or arbitrary timelines. I would rather not see that date in there, June 28th, because that is, I'm just keeping in mind at the same time this would be happening, if we don't appoint those folks until end of April, we've only got a couple months left until the end of June. So 2 months to get a whole lot of information about one of the most potentially impactful decisions that could be made. And that's also right on top of budget season where they'll have minimal access to staff. So there's some resource timing issues there. I think the more prescient matter for residents is going to be making sure we get our current budget right rather than this one. I want to make sure, similar to, again, when I alluded to the Constitutional Convention, make sure that we eliminate as many of those arbitrary deadlines and just make sure that if we do it, we get it right. To kind of condense and restate, my preference is we start with a couple of open houses and just engage the public in general. Perhaps have one in May and one in June, where all council can be there and just see what people think. That gives us time to include a notice on the utility bill to let people know that it's going to be discussed. It gives us time to publish things on the city website. Gives staff time to get a little bit of information about the different forms of government pulled together so that it can be presented in a position that's as non-biased as possible, and then through those open houses, find those who are most engaged and most willing to put in the work to form that committee, and then we engage them. I would really like to see the committee do the heavy lifting and get into the numbers of what it would cost, how long would it take, all the detail that otherwise would fall on staff. I would prefer we find committee members who can tackle that. So that's my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yeah, so the dates, I don't know that they are arbitrary. They are set on this. There's 92 days between April 26th and June 28th to research information. June 28th, if you're going to put something on the ballot, you have to have that 60-day window, and our deadline would be August 22nd if we want to have something put on the ballot this November. I was going to ask our attorney, Mr. Bricky, the change in form of government is only on municipal election years, so there really isn't a next year. It's either this year or 2 years. Is that correct?
Can you ask it one more time? I'm sorry.
When you're changing the form of government, it can only be done on municipal election years, which would be this year or 2 years from now.
Correct, and you're also, in doing so, making certain positions on the ballot will be clearly 4 years. There's generally an intent to first identify the mayor. If it's a mayor form of government, you're wanting to keep them at 4 years, and then the number of council members that are held over allowed to continue into the 2 year of that first new form of government, and then adding on additional council members 2 years, or at that point they'd only have a 2 year term. Does that make sense?
Yep, totally makes sense. That was what I had studied with my resolution a couple meetings ago. So for me, the timing is important because I don't want to start now and then have this go out for 2 years, because I think there would be data tiredness, topic tiredness, topic exhaustion. So I'm good with the dates of April 26th and June 28th. It gives us a month, or 6 weeks really, to get a committee put together, and then they have 3 months to look at just 3 forms of government, or 4 forms. It's the 6 council, 5 council, strong mayor, and the form that we currently have, all of which have pros, all of which have cons, all of which have different costs, all of which can be effective, as we talked about, effective. And so I would be open to, I'm committed to the dates. I would support this with the dates in there so that we're not dragging this out. I don't think our city can wait to have some betterment. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Hagan?
Thanks, Mayor. Excuse me. Yeah, since I've been looking at the form of government, I've been actually on committees where, well, actually sponsors of change of form of government, where we gathered signatures. It's always problematic with our city to the extent to where even if you're a resident, like I was, and my neighbors, and the thousands of signatures we got, our city attorney had made us go to the Utah Supreme Court. And we had to argue up there. That was years ago. And that was before some of these new form of government the legislature has created. I would propose to the council, rather than try to study something that is inferior to even what we have now, is ask our legislators, through our lobbyists, to adapt our form of government to where I think really our chairman and our mayor can become the CEO of the city. And I think it's basic language in state law that can be changed. Thereby, we really don't change a 7-member council and the mayor as the chair. We're just giving our larger city some direction and some vision, whoever that mayor will be, because obviously the new mayor won't be able to come into office until 4 years, 2021. So, but that's what I think I would do as a council person next year, ask our leaders, even though our leaders are kind of divided within our city, just in the legislature, to see if maybe we can adapt our form of government. If our residents are think this form of government is working. I mean, 3 years ago, we actually had a full-time mayor, and it's working, in my opinion. The problem is they're butting heads with our city manager. Since I've been in office, we've had 3 city managers, and hundreds of thousands of dollars have gone out of your taxpayer money to these city managers because they left. And so I would also ask the legislators to figure something like that out, to where if we have a city manager, we're no longer making millionaires out of somebody that comes to manage our city through bought contract buyouts, things like that, that we're in the process of looking at the city manager's contract right now, which is public record, by the way, at $180,000. And, four of us are going to decide, I guess, how much more money he makes this next year. He's a good man. Is he worth it? I think so. But I still think the person that somebody in business, somebody in the community comes to is a mayor. I've seen it. They don't come and shake the city manager hand. They come and shake the mayor's hand. And the mayor somehow in our form of government probably has to have some kind of change as far as leadership. And I would propose to council to go to the other form of governments. You can study them all you want, but somebody's going to have to actually resign because most of them are 6 to 5 member councils. And, but if we keep our 7 member council and the mayor as the chair, perhaps the legislature can keep this. I think it was 1979 that this form of government was created, but adapted to 2017. So that would be my recommendation to the council, that we look at maybe adapting more how our form of government is now and see if we can progress, because our city is stagnant. We are not growing. We've lost Facebook. We've lost things that I think if we had a strong leader that could commit to these businesses, not that the mayor is not a strong leader, but he's not the CEO of the city, we would be able to bring in more businesses into our city. More businesses mean more tax revenue, less tax burden on our residents. So that would be my recommendation. In fact, I think tomorrow I'll call my representative, see if we can start legislation as soon as possible. Thanks, Mayor.
Councilor Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I had a whole list of thoughts, and I just got derailed a little bit. But I just wanted to get a clarification on a section of state code from our attorney, and I just wanted to reference that. It's the form of government, change in form of government section of state code is Title 10, Utah Municipal Code. Chapter 3B is forms of municipal government, and Part 6 is changing. Of that, Section 603 is resolution or petition proposing a change in the form of government. And in that section, paragraph 3 says that an election can be held in a municipal general election or regular general election. And I just wanted to
And I appreciate the council's clarification. When Councilman Anderson asked the question, I've always understood he wants that mayor to have 4 years. We're not buying out 2 years of service. And it's very specific about it must be during a municipal election year. But you're correct. Under Utah Code Section 10, 3B, 603, 3A, except as provided in other sections, the council shall hold an election on the proposed changes in the form of government at the next municipal general election or general regular election. And they distinguish by definition what is a municipal election versus a general election. And it's been my understanding, based on Councilman Anderson's previous resolution, we were looking at trying to get a mayor who would serve 4 years. And that can only happen during a municipal general election. You can do it at other elections, but you're going to be having different start times for mayors. You're going to be buying out 2 years of a mayor's salary.
I appreciate that for the clarification. Thank you. Just for further clarification, the subject on the table is the creation of a committee to study the form of government as one possible next step. That's the issue on the table, or at least on the agenda. Not to debate which form of government now. Now, I suppose we can. However, that's not what's on the agenda right now. On the agenda right now is, do we want to create a committee to let the residents let us know through that specific forum whether this is how they want, whether they want this type of a question on the ballot or not, and which question on the ballot. That's the matter before us. Whether you think this form of government is the best, whether you think the formerly proposed form of government is the best or some other form of government is the best is somewhat irrelevant at this point on this agenda item. What's relevant here right now is how do we, as a council, want to hear from our citizens? We've heard a couple of things. A committee can be part of that. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. I like the open house idea that Councilman McConaughey mentioned. The dates are in there with the thought of getting it on the ballot this year, getting something on the ballot this year if the committee proposes that, and that's why the dates are in there for that timeline. I agree they're arbitrary. They are somewhat pulled out of a hat, that hat containing the, sorry, I just got the smile. They are somewhat pulled out of a hat. That hat containing only dates that had council meetings scheduled, which is why those particular dates were picked. But, and with that 60 and 75 day time frame that the law forces us to work under, if we do want to put this on the ballot. So with that said, I'm okay with the committee being created with dates. I'm okay with it being created without dates. I just fear without dates in there, like Councilman Anderson said, this could drag on forever. And frankly, I've only been on the council a year and a couple of months, and I'm already tired of the discussion. I know it's been going on a lot longer than I've been here, and I got tired of it before I got here. So I'm ready to see this resolved for the time being until it's brought up again. With that said, you know, I think there's a lot of paths we can go down, but this committee is the one proposed on the table right now.
Councilmember Nichols.
Thank you. On the subject of this discussion of creating a committee, if I supported this tonight, I would be reversing a position, and therefore I want to explain that. I have formally stated not that long ago that I would be completely, in probably very strong terms, and absolutely against any idea of talking about this subject at all, until we get the legislature to put our form of government back in the books as a possible form of government for other cities to have, thereby allowing us to change our form of government and perhaps come back if we made a mistake. I just wanted that avenue so we could have honest dialogue. Having said that, I'm more than willing to go down this road at this point of discussing it. It's important. I've expressed that tonight. We've seen it. We've awoken the giant in the city, and I'm excited just to have the dialogue. I really encourage the openness, and I'd like us to see us go down here. I didn't think the committee is the best idea. When I went to the town hall that Councilmember Jacob put together, it was great dialogue. In fact, I sat in the back and just kind of added something here and there. It was fun to listen to everybody talk back and forth. It was genuine, honest debate. It was fun. And I want to see more of that. I could be supportive of a committee idea. Namely, Councilmember McConaughey brought one thing up. It talks about membership of council members. I won't support that in any form. Just because, and I'll be very frank with the public, outside of us up here, I would think that most, if not all, are biased on an opinion on this. And on this issue, I've admitted it tonight that I'm biased, that I prefer one form of government. And by the way, when the committee's formed, I'd be more than happy to come that night and talk about that issue, about why I'd be a proponent of it. But that's it. I don't want council members being members of this committee if that's what we do. I'm okay with the dates, just because I agree with what Councilmember Jacob has said. Let's talk about it. Let's get this out. People are anxious. They want to talk about it now. Let's talk about it. If we find out there's just 15 people that want to change and that's it, I think we have our answer. But if we start going to meetings and we find 30 and 45 and 60, next thing you know we have hundreds of people who are looking for a change, I think we should listen. And anyway, that would be my position. In this resolution, I could support it intact with the exception of excluding the council members. I would like to see a council member be a liaison, at least to the committee. So if the committee has questions that are council related, that council member can at least pass some dialogue back and forth between the legislative body here. But anyway, that's my comment for now. I also support us to continue to do what we've been doing in the town halls. I know, Councilmember Burton, you've had several town halls recently on different subjects. That same thing. Let's keep the dialogue going. Let's do whatever we can. I'm okay with the dates just because I know it's important to some people up here that we had this discussion this year. I don't need it, but I'm okay to support that. Thank you.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to speak again on this topic. I got to remember what I was going to say. You know, I think we've all heard, and I want to thank Councilmember Burton for at least initiating the dialogue, and I'm grateful that I was able to support that so that we could have the dialogue from the residents to make our city better. I also want to thank Mayor Rolfe, who supported my resolution, even though it didn't support, which I thought was a good resolution. So I want to thank you for starting this dialogue. And the interesting thing is, of the 18 people that have been here, and I haven't tabulated the people that have texted me and the people I've talked to and called, the vast majority of them said, I want to have the dialogue. I want to see what is best for us. And so that's why I believe that this is an important dialogue to have the town meetings and to discuss from the public, because they're the ones that are going to vote what's going to happen. And I agree with Councilmember McConaughey, who a few meetings ago had indicated that the timing's off, and I respect that, and I get it. My concern is I don't know that we can afford to wait 2 more years. We've got to decide, how do we get the city moving forward? And if that's our current form, if that's some other form, how do we get it so that we've got businesses knocking on our doors to come in more frequently? How is it that we can improve the quality of service of our residents? How is it that we can be better? I mean, that's really what my purpose is. And I understand that, you know, with this year being off, we would have a mayor that would have a 2-year term, and we'd have a couple council members later in the new form that would have 2-year terms, which I presented with my resolution. However, I'm impatient. I don't want people to be exhausted of the dialogue for 2 years, and that's why I feel like I do with this resolution. So I can support having a liaison with the council on this committee, but not a voting member of the committee. I'm fine with the dates. I realize that may put some burden on some staff from time to time. However, most of this will be done by committee, by volunteer committee of our residents. And then we can decide on June 28th, based on what the committee's results are, whether to accept it, whether to reject it or modify it. And if the...
I need to stop you there. We need to extend the meeting by council rules. I will not be supporting extending this meeting because I can assure you that we have at least an hour and a half plus in closed session after this meeting. But we need a motion.
I move to adjourn this meeting so we can go into closed session.
You move to closed session and adjourn from there?
Let me rephrase that. Adjourn from this meeting, go into closed session, and we can come back here, or should we? In closed session.
I second that. I have a motion by Councilmember Haga, a second by Mayor Rolfe. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Haga.
Yeah, Mayor, you know, to the audience, you know, we're at a delicate time right now where we have to, we'll be working probably another 3 hours. And our council rules say that we can suspend our rules, but that we are to finish our meeting at 9 o'clock. Now, unless there's another motion, you know, to suspend the rule, just for the sake of having clear mind and debate in closed door session on the issue we have to deal with, I think it's important that the council move forward and bring all the items back next week that are on the agenda.
Councilmember Anderson. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple thoughts. Number one, rather than ending at this point in time, I prefer we conclude this item and then go to close session if necessary. Number two, before doing that, I want to make sure that there are no items that have a tight timeline that have to be addressed tonight. And number three, I would remind the council that two of us will not be present at the next meeting. There's a chance I might be able to be present if it were electronic. But I just wanted to bring up those three things for consideration. Number one, I would prefer to wrap up this agenda item. Number two, make sure that we don't have any tight timelines with the rest. And number three, if there are items that get pushed back to the next meeting, just knowing that there will only, the two of us will be absent. So, thank you.
Our city attorney, is there any items that absolutely have to be heard tonight, have a deadline to them?
I know we have staff here, including Mr. Glane and Mr. Piper, regarding items 7, C, D, and E. And I believe Mr. Oak is present for F. I'm just identifying for the record. Additionally, item I is Councilman Nichols' item. J is your own item. I can tell you my item K can certainly be continued. It was always going to be my intention to pull that. Mr. Palish wanted to discuss it further with me. I believe Mr. Glane's two items are really closely tied together, D and E. To pull one and not the other doesn't make sense, although it just delays whether or not there's an implementation of change in collection of taxes at some point. And it sounds like the council wants to debate that further, and Mr. Piper's policy decision, I think, can wait, but I don't mean to speak for any other council, or excuse me, staff member if they have strong feelings. If you just need to press your button and speak up and let them know.
It can wait.
Okay, so.
Call the question, Mayor.
Would you make would you accept a friendly amendment to finish the dialogue, knowing that it's already gone on for 35 minutes so far on this item? Or do you want to vote on the item you have? I would second a friendly amendment to finish the one item we're on. And then move to closed session.
Point of order. So if we have a motion on the table, and if we're going to suspend the rules, we need another motion.
So you're not changing your motion. Let's vote.
Under your rules, you can make actually 3 amended motions to the original motion.
So what's the motion on the table right now?
The motion you made.
The motion is Councilmember Haga moved to recess the meeting and go into a closed session and adjourn from there. It was seconded by Mayor Ralph.
That's all.
Councilmember Jacob?
No.
Councilmember Conaghy?
No.
Councilmember Burton?
No.
Councilmember Anderson?
No.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
No.
Mayor Ralph?
Yes.
Vote fails 2-5.
Councilmember Jacob.
Mayor, I move to extend the meeting past 9 p.m. for the purposes of finishing the debate on item 7H, and then move to closed session and adjourn from there with the rest of the items being tabled. No, it's moved to closed session for the purpose of discussion of the character and competence of an individual, strategy session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation, and a strategy session to discuss purchase, exchange, or use of real property, and adjourn from there.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Jacob and a second by Councilmember Nichols. Discussion to the motion.
Yeah, could we repeat the motion just so we're clear? It's getting late, yeah.
Councilmember Jacob moved to extend the meeting past the 9 p.m. deadline to continue and finish business item 7H and then move into a closed session for the reasons specified and adjourn from there. It was seconded by Councilmember Anderson. Oh, Councilmember Nichols.
Councilmember Jacob, you have
No, sorry, that was the...
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor.
There was one item that I spoke with our city attorney about just before the meeting that might require us to potentially come back into open session to potentially direct staff to add something to a subsequent meeting.
So it'll have to be brought back next meeting and agendized.
It does involve litigation. I'm forwarding to you a confidential email regarding that matter. I'd ask you to, it will be sent blank copy so that when you respond, it's only going to might be to me.
So we don't need to return. Okay, we don't need to return?
We do need to return. He said yes.
The motion had us adjourning from the closed session. That's what I was bringing up. Because do we need to have a friendly amendment to the motion to potentially allow us to return to open session and then adjourn from here?
I would like to amend your motion to be returned here and then adjourn from this room.
That is correct. So we need to come back and do it on the record.
I accept the amendment.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second amended. Let's vote.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Mayor Ralph?
No.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Vote passes 6-1 in favor.
You can finish your points. You have the floor.
I don't actually remember where I left off. So basically, I'm supportive of this with the amendment or the change to number 2, keeping the dates.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I would love to see us as a council be have a significant majority in support of this route. That said, I am a hard no with the adherence to the dates. If it turns out to be possible to complete everything by the dates that are shown in there, fantastic. But I'm staunchly against having that. I do see that as an artificial timeline. For clarity, it was stated that there are 90 days between end of April and end of June. I think that it was meant to say 61 days, but then also including time to get things noticed for the agenda. We're less than 60 days to potentially propose one of the most significant changes we've seen in our history in the last half century. I appreciate the concerns about people potentially becoming tired about data, tired about hearing about this if it goes on for a long time. I think it's more important to get it right than get it fast. If the primary driver is to get a question on this year's ballot because we can't wait another year or two to find some betterment, I think that was the word that was used earlier, betterment, then you've already decided that our current form of government is inferior and you're presupposing that a change is needed. And I think we need to be dedicated to completeness of data and dedicated to reflecting the desire of the residents rather than a personal desire to push for a change to the form of government. For those that really do want to see a change to the form of government, I think it would serve them best if we give them the highest likelihood of success by providing that completeness of data, and would think that anything less would be undermining their efforts. The other thing that was brought up was we need to get off, the question was, how do we get the city moving forward again? Well, we get off the topic of change in form of government. To put aside some of the political correctness and just be very, very blunt, I think on occasion we look foolish as a city. It looks like we can't decide what we're doing because this comes up again and again and again. I think it's hard for the state legislature. I think it's hard for the neighboring communities. I think our indecisiveness and going back and forth on this and other issues is what's causing the problems for us. And I think if we really want to find some betterment, we'll do it once and do it right. I don't want to see us put one question out on the ballot this year and then say, well, we didn't really do it right, so let's do it again, but with a different question next year. I think we do it once, we do it right, we take the time that we need to make sure all the questions are answered, people have the best data possible. And, well, to answer the question, how do we get the city moving forward again? we get off the topic of change in form of government and get back to the work of governing the city. I want to make sure that if we do it right. And I don't want a 61-day window, and actually less than that, because again, the conclusion has to be agendized prior. So I don't want to try and force everything that needs to be done in a window of less than 60 days. If it can actually be done, fantastic, but I cannot support something that tries to take a decision of such monumental importance and squeeze it into an artificial timeline. I would like to see us near unanimous on this, but I can't support it with, I'm okay with the date for proposing the committee members. It's that date for returning with a recommendation. Again, they won't have full access to staff, middle of budget season, it's just too rough. So those are my thoughts. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Reagan.
Thanks, Mayor. Real short. It's over. The resolution fell, so therefore now what I plan to do as a council member that's not running is to seek out people in my city, whoever's running for mayor this year, for council at large, for my seat against Councilman Nichols in his seat, and this year actually now Councilman Anderson's seat. So there'll be 4 members that I'll be seeking out that will be proponents, and hopefully they're educated a little bit more than us. I apologize that we weren't able to convey the complexity of this form of government, but maybe we make it a political issue with the candidates this year, and the candidates educate the residents. And there's plenty of time, like Councilman McConaughey said, a quarter of a century. It's actually been longer than that. So that's not very long when you're my age, a quarter of a century. But I'm going to look for candidates this year. This is a candidate year of 4 positions on this seat, that we can ask them the question, go out and ask their folks who are going to vote for them whether they want this form of government or the other 5 form of governments we have. That would be the best form, in my opinion. So I'm going to be opposed to any ad hoc. I'm opposed to any kind of using any city funds or any buildings, things like that. If you want to have those kind of meetings, do them in cottage meetings, town halls, at the library, things like that. So real quick, I'm looking for 4 new candidates next year.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 17-40 with the following changes. In Section 2, the committee shall have 7 to 9 voting members, not including 1 to 3 city council members ex officio as non-voting members. And removing or changing Section 4 to end with a period after the word consideration, striking the last phrase, last 2 phrases. So Section 4 will read, the committee shall present and report their findings and recommendations to the city council for the council's consideration, period.
Is that the entire motion?
That's the entire motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Anderson.
That's, you say Hager or?
No, sorry, Councilmember Anderson.
My turn. Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe.
Abstain.
Councilmember Nichols.
Yes.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Haga.
Abstain.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Vote passes 5 in favor.
We'll move to closed session. And adjourn.
Can I ask a question for my own benefit? So therefore you need me to stay if you're coming back into an open meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the motion. It'll be late. we reconvene our city council meeting.
Time out. I shut down the system. The recorder's on, but I shut down the speaker. That's just out of habit. Make sure it's on. Hello,
Can you hear me now?
There it goes.
Yeah, it's going now.
We reconvene city council meeting. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to direct, assuming support of the rest of the council, I would like to direct staff that they agendize a rescinding of ordinance 17-04, which was South Jordan's rezone application. Further, I would like to ask staff to have that scheduled for the second council meeting in May. Is there?
Second.
May 2017.
Second.
If that was a motion and a vote, if that was a motion, then, yeah.
It was direction to staff. I don't know
Oh,
that we
yeah.
can make a motion on an item that's not agendized, but we can direct staff to bring it back. So I would ask, is there any opposition? Okay, so it appears unanimous to request staff to put that on the second meeting in May 2017. Yes.
That would be appropriate.
Yes, and that second council meeting in May would be the motion to rescind the decision denying South Jordan's application. Did I word that right, David? Thank you. Okay.
I need a motion.
So further, I move that we, I forget what the word is, move from council meeting back to closed session for the reasons previously stated, and then adjourn from there.
Second. We have a motion. Councilmember McConaughey, second. Councilmember Nichols, discussion of the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Mayor Wall?
Yes.
Vote passes 7 in favor.
Mayor?
Yes.
Crap. I have a question about this now that I read it. It appears to be a two-part request, not just to rescind, but also to place the application for the rezone on that future council agenda.
We have to.
We've already voted to return. We've already adjourned. I'll discuss with you all.